February 5th City Council meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee.
Here.
Alderman Glad.
Here.
Alderman McClatchy.
Here.
Alderman Bassey. Here. Alderman Strack.
Here.
Alderman Cook.
Here.
Alderwoman Miller. Here.
Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get going this evening, I'd like to welcome our new city administrator, Suzanne Ostrovsky. Oh, see, I knew I was going to do it.
Not bad.
You know, she just joined us about 2.5 weeks ago, so I'd like to welcome her to her first city council meeting, which is a doozy. So, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
So,
Thank you. Very, very glad to be here and just pleased for the opportunity and looking forward to learning about the city and helping you guys out to the extent I can. So,
perfect.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started on public comment. Is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda this evening? Okay, so everyone that signed in is either for, I'm guessing, the Riverwalk or any discussion items, right? Okay. All right, we're moving on to the consent agenda, items 5A through 5G. Is there any council members wanting to pull for separate consideration? Alderman Glad?
Yeah, I'd like to pull A, B, C, and E, please.
All right, any others? All right, starting with, I'm looking for a motion to approve 5D, F, and G. Alderman McClatchy?
I would move that we approve those minus A, B, and C.
And E. And E. Alderman Miller, for second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller. Yes. Alderman Cook.
Yes.
Alderman Strack.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey.
Yes.
Alderman Glad.
Yes.
Alderman Santee.
Yes. Thank you, Council. First item that was pulled by Alderman Gleb is 5A, is a resolution regarding CMAP's report entitled Plan of Action for Regional Transit. Go ahead, Alderman Gleb.
Yeah. I've never seen the CMAP report, and I just feel, maybe we could be a little explanation as far as what it does for the city of McHenry and why we were passing a resolution for this, considering, again, I haven't seen the total report.
So, on in your supplements, did you see that on page 3 and 4?
Yeah.
It has, obviously, the resolution in there. We received this from McCog. Every mayor is looking to pass this obviously, with the funding and the budget shortfalls, this was suggested by McCog, and it's on, I think 3 mayors have already passed it, or 3 municipalities, and we're the 4th, and then the rest are going to be going on this week and next week.
Okay, so, but what are the benefits to the city of McHenry on this plan, other than, of course, widening of 31? Do we have anything specific that in those plans that actually affect us?
No, it's more county-wide.
Okay, so I guess in the interest of the entire county, because every city within the county affects each other, I'll make a motion to pass the resolution as presented.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Alderman Bassey?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion by City Council? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Glad.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey.
Yes.
Alderman Santee.
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderman Strack.
Yes.
Alderman Cook.
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item pulled by Alderman Glab is 5B, is reject all bids for the production of well number 14 and discontinue any further work on well number 14 at this time. Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah, considering that we've come up with the PFAS chemical in well number 2, I have a little bit of reservations as far as what we're doing as far as the city, and maybe we could be explained as far as if we are not going to move forward with well number 14, exactly what is our action moving forward, because just sending a note to our residents as far as this chemical being in our water, I think we want to make sure, I think, as a council, that we're protecting our residents the best we can, and we need to know exactly where we're at with this, because I think this could be an important issue. Has not become an issue. It's fairly new out there. I know from what I've seen on the internet. Must be somewhat new as far as the EPA and everybody have not done any mandates on it. I know I've read as far as the PFAS is not just in water, but it has shown up through the country as far as in foods and things. And again, I just want to know where we're going with this, because basically those are chemicals that get in your body. It takes a long time, if ever, to get it filtered through.
Alderman Glab, at this time, there's no action level from the EPA, so we don't even know what mitigations we're going to have to take on that well. Our detection level was low, so as it goes, so we don't know what the EPA is going to mandate at this time. As far as drilling well 14, that's just to put that price we had was just to put the casing in the ground. We already have 2 wells drilled in town, one on the east side, one on the west side, with pumping equipment, everything in them. When you look at the totality of that project to get it in service, you're looking at probably closer to $1 million, and I think we'd be better served at that time to look at using one of those other wells to mitigate that if we need to at that time.
You know, this would normally be something that I'd suggest that we send to our Public Works Committee, which we don't have anymore, and I just think to some extent we need more information before we just make a decision as far as just doing away with well number 14. I'm sure we've spent some money already as far as engineering and exploratory.
About $30,000.
About $30,000 already. So to walk away and not do anything, I think to some extent we need to have a game plan, and I think the council, I'd like to see how the rest of the council feels as far as how quickly we would like to see something moving on this.
Open up for discussion. Alderman Strack.
So, Director Wirtz, thank you for the call earlier today, and we had a pretty in-depth conversation about this today as well. I was concerned about the same things that Alderman Glab has brought up. I think the fact of the matter is that we don't know what we're going to do in the future, but the fact that we have these other 2 facilities that are pretty much ready to go, we can either look to, according to Director Wirtz today, we can look to possibly utilize a new well on the east side of town, which is give us some water redundancy over there, and maybe kill 2 birds with 1 stone if we can do that. So Director Wirtz and I had a pretty long chat about this today, and I think that does sound like a good plan moving forward, but it's early. We don't know what the EPA is going to do with these levels, and that's part of the issue that we talked about today as well. I had the same concerns with, this being in the water as well, and I don't know how everybody else feels, but it sounds like Director Wirtz has a good plan, and creating some redundancy on the east side of the river would be good for us as a city as well. Thank you.
Any others? Alderman Miller?
I support stopping work on 14. I don't want to spend another $400,000 if we ultimately need to replace the well and go to a different direction. And seeing that it's not being mandated right now and our levels are low, it's still operational, it's still working, and again, I would rather cease work on it and look to the future on what we need to do. So I support the direction we're heading with stopping work on 14.
Thank you. Any other comments? This time, looking for a motion to approve 5B as presented. Alderman Miller?
I'll make that motion to approve 5B as presented to reject all bids for the production of well 14 and discontinue any further work on well 14 at this time.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Santee?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
No.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda, pulled by Alderman Glab, is 5C, is authorize staff to purchase 5 vehicles through McHenry County bid 23-6516, now with payment and delivery in fiscal year 24-25 for an amount not to exceed $204,266. Alderman Glab, the floor is yours.
Yeah, basically, more than anything else, I applaud the chief as far as the pricing he got and everything else, and I know there will be additional costs because of the light bars and everything that need to be put on there. I've seen that many a times before. But when's the last time that we actually looked at our policy of replacing those vehicles? And, you know, I know we created this policy probably 20-plus years ago, and then it's been amended since. But more than anything else, 20 years ago, vehicles didn't last like they do now as far as the time and everything else. And I also would like to know, to some extent, do we have some kind of a ballpark figure as far as the vehicles that we will retire, what we feel we will be getting back on those?
Okay, I'll do my best to answer this. So, yes, our vehicle replacement plan for the police department years ago was 3 years and 85,000 miles, whichever came first. It's something that we never met. The city never had the funds to really rotate them out, because after 85,000 miles, they start falling apart, engines, transmissions. This plan that we currently have right now is part of the 20-year capital investment plan that council adopted 2 years ago. It identifies all the vehicles in the city fleet and what vehicles get replaced each year for the next 20 years. So these are the 5 vehicles that are identified next year to be replaced for the police department that council's already approved through that capital investment plan. And they would be replacing vehicles that, quite frankly, by the time we get rid of those 5 vehicles to replace in there, we won't get a whole lot, a few $1,000s a vehicle. Most of our patrol vehicles, when we retire them out of patrol, we put them into specialty use for like school resource officers, training purposes, and then we run them up to 175,000 miles before we get rid of them. So these will go in the Mark Patrol fleet. The oldest Mark Patrol cars will move to those reserve cars, and the current reserve cars that we've had since 2015 will roll out, and they'll be the ones that we get rid of and sell.
Do we use the history as far as repairs on these vehicles when we make those decisions as well?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So that's part of the reason why we actually switched to the Dodges last year from the Fords. Our repair costs on the Fords were climbing since they changed the more recent model that we went to back in 2019. And so to give you an idea, like we spent about $1,000 on a Dodge Durango. That's a 2019, and all of our newer Fords, we were spending between $3,000 and $6,000 a year in maintenance costs. So this is a vehicle that we can buy for $5,000 less than a Ford right now, and it also, right now, as far as our maintenance records go with the city mechanics, we're spending less money to maintain them as well.
Okay, thanks, Chief. The only thing I'd ask is maybe the next time that we go around with these, that if we get a little bit more information as far as the old vehicles and everything else, it just gives us a better well, we don't even have to ask these questions at council then, because we'll have it right there as far as
that's not a problem.
where we're at,
we
as
can
far as
identify
just the
vehicles
history
and
on the old vehicles we're getting rid of.
Yep.
Thank you.
Alderman Santee?
Thank you, Chief Burke, for giving me some time today. And I just wanted to reiterate a couple of concerns I had, just to make sure we all understand this. It seems like police, I don't know, maybe nationally are going towards SUVs because sedans are no longer available or soon to be not available?
Correct. There are no sedan police cars available anymore. December of 2023 was the last time Dodge offered the Charger, which we've never used, but Ford got away from them 4 years ago, and GM got away from them before that. I don't know the exact year. All they do offer is SUVs.
And the vehicles we're purchasing are all going to be on-the-street patrol vehicles, correct?
Correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments by council? All right, looking for a motion to approve 5C as presented. Alderman Santee?
I'll make a motion to authorize the purchase of 5 vehicles through the McHenry County bid 23-6516 now, and payment delivery in the fiscal year 24-25, the amount not to exceed $204,266 as presented.
Thank you. Alderman McClatchy for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderwoman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Strack,
Yes.
Alderman Cook,
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda is 5E, Parks and Recreation Facilities and Special Use Permit Requests. Alderman Glab, floor is yours.
Yeah, the permit request that I had little questions on from, it's a rental date of May 9th for the LGMC Leadership Greater McHenry County. Be quite honest, I don't know too much about the leadership. I know the police department is somewhat involved in that to some extent. So we're looking at 75 to 100 people. We're looking at either a band or DJ or something, and we're talking rental time of 5 hours. So there's no time as far as start and finish. I mean, are you planning on keeping this thing open till 11 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night, or, you know, are you figuring on the afternoon? It's just kind of up in the air there, and I think we need some clarification on that.
Apologize, that was an oversight just on the application there. Leadership Greater McHenry County is an organization that a number of our employees have been through. Doug's been through it. We've had a number of our police to go through that as well. Our former city administrator went through that. This is their challenge day, so as a group, and I'm sure, Doug, you can speak to a little better, but as a group, they pick some topic within McHenry County that they want to try to gain a better understanding. This group picked putting on a special event. So they're going to host a seminar or a workshop at the Vixen and have lunch. And then after lunch is over, they're going to walk down the Riverwalk and come to a mini special event, a private mini special event that they want to get a feel for how you would put a special event together. It's not supposed to be anything grandiose, but we're looking at 1 to 6 is the time frame that we've discussed with them. Again, they would do they were up in the air whether they want to do a small 2 or 3 piece band or a DJ that would be in the gazebo right next to that small grass area where they would set up a couple of tents to simulate what a larger special event would be. But it's really a challenge day for them to get a feel for putting together a special event and how that team works together to do that.
And so the times are going to be from what time to what time?
1 to 6.
1 to 6?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, so
Yep.
it's the afternoon.
Afternoon, yep.
All right. That was my concern more so than anything else. I did do some research on Google as far as leadership and all that, and found that the police department was involved in exactly what they were doing. But it was still nice to, see that our police department and others in the city are involved in this. But again, that 5 hours concerned me because of the time. So I'll make a motion to approve the special use permits as presented, with the fact that the time would be 1 to 6 as far as for this application.
Thank you. Second, Alderman Santee.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Glab,
Yes.
Alderman Santee,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Massey.
Yes.
Alderman Strack.
Yes.
Alderman Cook,
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda is 6A, is Dining and Entertainment District. Chief or Director Hobson, which one you want? Oh,
All
Bill,
right.
go ahead.
Thank you. So at the October 2nd meeting, we brought before you a all-encompassing dining entertainment district for your discussion, and I think that was an excellent opportunity. We were able to pare that down of what might even be acceptable from a council's point of view. We went from a 7 days and a much more liberal offering to what an initial program could be. We took that initial program as we would promise you and take that back to our business owners. We started with our restaurant and bar owners on Riverside Drive and on Green Street. We did them individually and polled them, brought them in. It was a mandatory meeting, brought them all in here to City Hall and really talked about the program and as it's set up of Thursday through Sunday, 4 p.m. to 8:30 essentially, where last drink served at 8:30. We talked about the parameters of a cup and what the district would look like from a Riverwalk and Green Street and Riverside Drive, where they could go with that. Opened it up for the floor and asked, for them for questions. And there wasn't a ton of questions, but there was a lot of support, especially from those 2 streets. Almost unanimous support. I don't think that, Chief, do you remember anybody that was against it from those 2 streets? We took that same conversation and went to Main Street. And, you know, we had a good discussion with Main Street here at this group. And the interesting thing is that the Main Street, with the exception of one, was not in favor of it this time. It's not something that they wanted to see. We even offered things like, did they want to see another street closure to just have a second food truck event or something that would better serve that street and the flavor of that street. They didn't want that. The one thing that they did express interest in was the possibility of a trolley, and if there was ever an opportunity to be able to have better connectivity through the streets or during the hours of the program of the city sponsoring a trolley. Obviously, there were no promises made, and because a trolley can be relatively expensive, we do a trolley for one day of Shamrocks the Fox, the Saturday. That's generally about $900 for the day. We also partner with the Chamber. Actually, they have taken that on now for our holiday walk, and they have a trolley for that day as well. So it would be something that would have a significant budget impact, but it was their one request to say, we don't want it at this time, but this is something that to bring back to you to at least discuss and say, these are our wishes. We then took Chief and the police department and Monty created a survey that we sent out to our business owners in those districts, particularly on Riverside Drive and Green Street. Our response wasn't quite as good just in terms of number of responses. We only received 7 responses back. Of those 7, 4 were in favor of the program as it sat right now. It wasn't a good response, I guess, is the only real comment on that. And then finally, the next group that was impacted probably the most, and that we've heard probably be the most vocal, is the Riverwalk Place Townhome homeowners. We sent the survey to them to see if they were in favor, again outlining the parameters of the program. That survey came back 9 for and 9 against. 2 of the against were from the same address, but all in all, it was still 9 for and 9 against from the program. As we brought it to you and refined that. With those results as they're outlined in the supplement, we're back before you to see what input you might have, so we can either say we want to create these ordinances, create these parameters to possibly move forward with this by May 1st, or if this is just not based on the response, this is not something you're interested in at this time. So that's where we're at. We're happy to answer any questions. Chief, I don't know if you needed to or would like to add anything else to that.
All right, thank you, Bill. I'm going to open it up for questions, comments by City Council. Alderwoman Miller, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Jett. Thank you for doing the legwork. I appreciate that you both went out to our community and got the feedback. It's not what I expected. I expected Main Street to be all in, being that they're kind of an island already, and we're doing everything we can to incorporate and embrace them in our city stuff. And but I have to respect that because those are the owners, and we can't create a trolley, although I would love to create something going back and forth on Main Street because nobody wants to walk the hill. But I do think it's worth pursuing, and what makes me think that is the success that we have on Shamrocks on the Fox, the success that we have on the Chambers Wine Walks, the success that we have on the Holiday Walk. People want to be able to move with food and beverage and make multiple stops along the way. And I think if our owners of Green Street and Riverside Drive see value in it, it behooves us to move forward with this project and at least take it for a test run. And that was our intention here, just like we did with the golf cart ordinance. We took it for a test run. It was unexpectedly pleasant. I think this deserves a test run and see if it has merit. And if we can take care of the problems, because we know there's going to be some issues that come up, but I think it's worth a shot. So thank you for doing the legwork.
I would just add to that. It certainly, very clearly, this is a test run. It's a 1 year that would have to be approved by City Council at the end of 1 year to renew it. So it is a true 1 year test run, similar to the UTV ordinance. I think we too were surprised by Main Street and they liked the direction they're headed and thought this might change the direction that they're headed by allowing that. And so it was I think we were surprised when we got those results from them.
If I can just continue. And, our other agenda item this evening is the continuation of the Riverwalk. I think if we are going to continue to discuss, fund, and complete the Riverwalk, this goes hand in hand. The whole intention of the Riverwalk is to get people from Plan A to Plan B, with some other mobility other than vehicles. So if we're promoting a walkable city, a walkable entertaining and dining district where you can progressively go through your meal, I think, again, it's moving in the right direction. So thank you.
Any other comments? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I know this is a pilot program, and after a year, we're going to look at it and see if there's any problems in that, but I like to look at it as let's crawl before we start running on this thing. So I would like to see it just focused on the Riverwalk. We sell alcohol there now, and maybe someone wants to take a walk down the Riverwalk, but I think the whole plan is a little bit too much to take right now, and let's see what happens after a year.
Alderman Glab?
Yeah, I just want to bring up the fact that the intention of the Riverwalk originally, and I think it still is the fact that it was built for our community, and that means everybody in our community as far as families and whatnot. And I think it deters people bringing out their families in an environment where you have people walking around drinking. And that's my feeling on it, and I cannot support this.
Alderman Santee?
Just a couple things to make sure. Thank you. A couple things to make sure we all understand. Chief Burke, we'd have to have patrol officers on foot during these time frames. How do you propose you're going to schedule that?
So from the 4 to 9 p.m., there's a learning curve every time you change anything that has to do with alcohol. So we would put regular scheduled foot patrols out daily between Thursday and Sunday from the area cars to be out there to make sure that people are actually in compliance with the actual sale rule, the consumption rule, and to make sure that we don't have any issues whatsoever. We would also flag, we'll track that. We would be prepared to come back to council probably in December if it passes and give you an update on how that season went. How did we do between May and October 31st as far as calls for service, any issues that occurred during in that footprint when reference alcohol and reference specifically the dining and entertainment districts. That way you guys can make an educated decision on what you want to do moving forward.
Thank you. I guess one other concern I have is that when I look at, now I know they didn't all participate, but when you look at a 4-3 vote on the businesses, which, they're the main components in regards to, they're going to have to operate it, they're going to have to insure it, they're going to have to figure out how they're going to do their cups. And I really felt going into something like this that I want to see just a larger percentage buy-in, like at least 90%. What Alderman McClatchy proposes is something that's kind of, it's tightening up the borders and could make, maybe the chief's part of this in regards to patrol a little bit easier, let's say, to take care of. But I guess I would like to maybe look at something that's a little bit smaller, with the possibility of growing it at a later time, and knowing one business that did not complete the survey and owns 2, soon to be 3 businesses in a portion of this area was concerned in regards to not really all for it, but said if in fact it would go into place that he would figure out one way or another to participate in this. And just to make sure I've got the hours straight, is Sunday, what was the proposed time on Sunday, was it different than
4 to 9 p.m. would be the consumption time, 4 to 8:30. It would be
Eight-
the same every day.
Okay, so Sunday is the same as every day. That's all I have right now, thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing to that is, I know you talked about the response level. The response from the restaurant and bar was unanimous from Riverside Drive and Green Street, from those that attended that meeting, which I know we didn't include that list, but we had a sign-in list. The other survey was sent to business owners that maybe I just own a shop and I don't necessarily want them to come into my business with a cup in their hand. That was more the question. I own a retail business and not a restaurant or a bar. From a restaurant and bar scene on Riverside Drive and Green Street, from those that attended, it was a unanimous yes, an overwhelming yes, which I think, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think there would be probably some concerns if we did say, if we pared it down and said just the Riverwalk, well, now you're becoming exclusionary to some of those businesses that are not on or adjacent to the Riverwalk. And how does this guy get to benefit and I don't get to have that same benefit? I think that would be a concern that they would probably raise to us. So just kind of devil's advocate, a couple points being in those meetings and hearing their comments, I just wanted to relay those thoughts.
If I may, so what was what's your number in regards to restaurant bars that gave you a positive? Was it 9, 11?
It's up there, yeah, I mean, it was every...
I was going to say over 10, because the whole training room in the back was full. All those tables were full, and there might have been multiple people from the same businesses that had come, but that room was full with Riverside Drive and Green Street businesses, restaurant and bar businesses that came in, liquor license holders.
All right, thank you. I'd appreciate it if I could hear the comments of other council members.
Alderman Strack, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, I wasn't at that meeting. I don't know who attended the meeting, so I can only vouch for the people that I spoke directly to. I did speak to 3 of those owners that are on Green Street or Riverside Drive. I got a very strong no from one of those entities and a lot of backup data on that as well. That secondary was, I'm not really for it, but I'll participate if it's here. And the third just said it sounded like a good thing. I think the pitch that I got from the business owner that was a no was a very strong no, owns multiple restaurants in multiple locations and has this available in other locations as well, and just didn't feel strongly about it. I, along with either Alderman Glab or Alderman Santee, was looking for a stronger yes vote after speaking to those people as well. So I think at this point I'm probably a no on that moving forward. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I've spoken to so many individuals. A lot of people have come up to me and said, please don't support this. They, for various reasons, and a lot of it was just, I don't want to expose my children and grandchildren to this kind of an environment. So with that being said, and various people approaching me, and not just in my ward, I too cannot support this.
Alderman Cook?
You said you had this meeting with all the business. All right. Was that not included in the survey?
It was not. No, the survey went out to the retail businesses.
I understand that. But if you had this meeting, why didn't you put it in our minutes saying that, okay, you had this meeting and there was this total support? Because I'm against having open liquor. I mean, I can understand, Shamrock Days or, once in a while. But, with the business owners and all that stuff, kind of like a secret meeting, you all didn't tell us?
No, you were informed.
Okay.
Council was informed. It also,
Well, I
in the very
understand
first
that.
paragraph in
You had
community
a-
feedback, it does say that what we did and who was there and not there. There's nothing secret at all about it.
We actually emailed council after every meeting and every step of the way, telling them where we were at in the process.
I'll give my input. I think we've done a good job of doing things differently in McHenry. I think the golf cart thing, we got a little bit of backlash on that, but I think it's worked out very well. I think even Shamrock's the Fox, actually several businesses were against it. at first, and it was very difficult to say, hey, we're going to bring people down to Miller Point. But I think after the first year, it's proved success, and it actually increased their sales by 300%, maybe more, of what they would normally do on Shamrocks to Fox if we didn't bring something to Miller Point. So I think we've done a good job of doing things and trying it out. And there's some things that we've done that didn't work out so well, and we got rid of it. I think this is something that it's disheartening a little bit to see that it's not going to go through. I think trying something like this, there's larger municipalities, larger cities that are going to this. It makes it a destination. It's not, go out and bring a six-pack and what, it's not a drink fest. It's just to enjoy having a drink and walking around and going down your river walk. I mean, it's a destination. So, I thought this would have more support. Like Bill and John said, Chief said, I mean, we've had the support from bars and restaurants that are in those two areas. As far as the retail side and going out to an email and bringing back a survey, maybe they don't know exactly what it's all about. Maybe they need to have a one-on-one conversation. And if we have to do that and have a one-on-one conversation with all those retailers and bring back that, but I've heard nothing but positive things in the public, people that have mentioned it. I've not heard any negative except, obviously, some people from the Riverwalk that had concerns. But other than that, I've not heard anything negative. So I would hope that maybe we can look at doing some other things to get more support by the council, whether it's a one-on-one, asking these business owners, or sending, Doug Martin or Bill Hobson to these retail businesses to kind of give more information, to bring back a more accurate survey, maybe. But I would hate for this to die here and not give us an opportunity to bring this to fruition and try something different. So that's my opinion. But I'll open it up for public input regarding this item. Is there anyone from the public that would like to come and speak on behalf of this item? Sir? If you could just state your name and address for public record, please.
Sure. Steve DeStasio, 3402 Waukegan Road. Obviously, I live in the townhouses over there. Thank you for allowing us to express our points, our views and opinions, so I appreciate that. I think you are doing a wonderful job as our mayor, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
As much as council, I know you have our best interests at hand. I do have a couple of concerns about this issues. Let me just start by saying a couple of personal experiences that I've encountered living there. I had put my boat in on May 15th. I took it out October 5th. Within that time frame of about 130 to 140 days, I've picked up out of the water by my pier many of floaters of cups, bottles, beer cans, so on and so forth. So if this ordinance does come to fruition, I have concerns about that because obviously in order to do such a thing, you're going to have some kind of, I'll use the word identifiers as cups, special cups. And I hope that at the 69 or 79 cups or bottles that I pulled out of our channel already doesn't get magnified times 10 because of these identifiers if this in fact comes to fruition. So that's a concern. The other concern that I have, to be quite honest with you, is I know that you put into public piers by our houses. I'm all good with that. If it draws additional business to the town and the town flourishes, God bless. But I just wanted you to know there's something you may not be aware of. My daughter's blessed me with 5 little grandchildren, and the littlest guy of all, he loves the gazebo at the end of our complex. And he always says to me, Grandpa, let's go to the house. He thinks it's a playhouse. Point I'm trying to make is when I bring the little guy over there is such a strong stench of urine, you can't even stay in that thing for 35 or 40 seconds. It's that bad in the summertime. And I think that some of the people who come to the city and with the public piers, I think they think that it's an outhouse or a porta potty, and it's most unfortunate. The garbage can that's right next to that gazebo, constantly in the summertime overflowing with stuff that people emptied out of their boats, be it empty beer bottles, Subway sandwiches, dirty diapers, what have you. That garbage can is constantly overflowing. So because of these few instances that I'm putting before you now, in case you're not aware of it, I don't think that this is a great idea, and to be quite frank, I don't see the win in this. If you want to have it for special events like you've had in the past, St. Patty's Day, in the fall, a couple other events, I'm all good with that. That's okay. But I don't see the good in this on a daily basis or, week to week. I just feel strongly that's not a good idea. It's just my opinion. Thank you for your time. I think you're all doing a great job, especially you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments by the public regarding this item? Molly? Please state your name and address for public record.
Molly Ostap, I'm the president of the chamber. Do I give my home address?
Whatever, sure. Or home address.
Home address, 6113 Hidden Oak Court in Crystal Lake. I actually wasn't here to speak on this tonight, but I feel like it would be a mistake to not come up and say something about this, because I've spoken with Bill and Chief Burke about this before. And I think just from a business perspective, from the business community, the direction that the town is going with it becoming a destination location, especially with the Riverwalk shops there, there's such an potential right now for the city that we don't want to hit a lot of roadblocks with keeping people excited about the community. We are hearing such positive response from businesses that want to move to the community, given all of the things that we're doing. We've got residents that are jealous from other communities that we are doing what we're doing. And so just from a more general thing, I mean, whether or not this goes through, I think looking at an ordinance like this, if it's done in a measured way, it can be a very positive thing. I don't think that you're going to have people who say, woohoo, let me go grab my, keg and sit down by the water. I think what we're all picturing when we say this are the people that go get a glass of, wine from somewhere and want to enjoy the water. They go, they're having a dinner with their friends at Bimbo's, but then decide they want to go have dessert down at Just For You Treats, and so they take their drink and they walk along the river or along the place. So I think those are the types of things that we're picturing. I have children. I don't want to, I wouldn't want my children exposed to a bunch of drunkenness all the time either, but I don't think that's what we're hoping for this. So that's the only thing that I wanted to say. And then you'll see me in a little bit talking about the Riverwalk. So.
Thanks, Molly. Anyone else like to make a public comment? Ma'am?
Hello, my name is Stephanie. I live at 3530 Waukegan Road. I live in the condos above Buddy's and Healthy Hub. I am here tonight to just share some of my experiences living on the Riverwalk. I've been living there for about 4 years now. I moved from the city to move closer to my parents. They actually live on the Riverwalk as well. Sorry, I'm really nervous. I'm not very good at public speaking.
You're doing great.
So me and my daughter, I'm actually missing her piano lesson right now because I feel very strongly about this issue. I usually walk my dog along Green Street and then right on Elm, and then I go down to the Pancake Parlor and then walk up the Riverwalk along that way. But during the summer months, I do not do that because there's so many broken bottles of glass that I have to walk my dog around. Sometimes I even would take him across the street, but I just got sick of crossing Elm Street 'cause it's really busy, so I just decided to stick to the the neighborhood, excuse me. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back was one day when I was walking with my dog up the Riverwalk, and the entrance to my building is backed up from Buddy's and the retirement home. There's a little like gangway to walk through and enter into my building, and there was a gentleman who was relieving himself in the flowers right there, and I kept my dog closely on a leash, and as I wrangled him to the door, the gentleman saw that I walked behind him as he was relieving himself and apologized, and, you know, I told him to find a bathroom next time because it's disgusting. My bedroom is on Green Street, so I'm constantly hearing people screaming and yelling and being obnoxious, just cursing and yelling all types of obscenities. It's really crazy, but, you know, like I said, I lived in the city for about 11 years, so I'm kind of used to that. But what I have a problem with is when I'm walking from my parents' house. Like I said, they live on the other side of the bridge on the Riverwalk, so as I'm walking down the path from the bridge to continue onto the Riverwalk, I can hear a bunch of commotion going on, and it's coming from the gazebo, and I had my daughter with me, and it's probably around like 8:30 at night, and they were just yelling crazy things. I think a group of women walked by, and they were just being really gross, so I decided to walk down Waukegan Road just to be safe. And sure enough, they started getting in an argument with a couple that was walking past. I was able to see that at this point I was on Waukegan Road, but you can see through the parking lot, through the retirement home, and you can see the gazebo, and they started arguing with a couple because they said some obnoxious things to their girlfriend or whatever. Another time I was driving home, turning off of Green Street, left onto Waukegan, and there was a car stopped in the middle of the street, a guy with no shoes, no shirt on, banging on the hood of somebody's car. And at this point, I'm pretty, fed up with dealing, with drunk people, so I just flashed my brights, started honking the horn as I'm approaching, and it spooked him. He ran off. I did a U-turn, and I pulled up next to the car, asked what happened. They said that the guy was demanding a ride home because he couldn't get home. They didn't know him. They were pretty much just trapped and they were wanting to call the police, but luckily I came. They were able to go on their way. There was another time I was on the driveway of my parents' house, and I was cleaning my car, and it was probably 2:30 in the afternoon, and some guy was riding his bike down the bridge and crashed in the bushes in the corner, and his shoes went everywhere. He was literally tangled up in the bike where he could not get up. I had to move the bike off of him. I couldn't understand anything he was saying as I asked if he was okay, and I ended up having to call the police and everything because he could not stand, could not do anything. When I'm walking back, my daughter also really loves the gazebo because you can also see the fountain. There's been used contraception on the benches where I'm not able to go and enjoy that with her. I've even taken a used contraception out of my dog's mouth before, walking in that, right where that gazebo is in that garbage bin. It's disgusting. So I no longer do that during the summer. And I've never spoken at anything like this, so I'm not sure what's appropriate and what's deemed not appropriate, but I do have a video I just wanted to show you guys. You guys can actually all look at it yourselves. It's a public group. It's Everything McHenry, and if you typed into the search bar, we need to fix this bush, you would see this video. Am I allowed to play it? It's a video of a lady who's drunk and in the bushes right outside of Buddy's where the patio is, and she's literally levitating over the water on the other side of the bush next to the pier. A gentleman's trying to help her out of it. She's stumbling, cannot get out, and then ends up falling on her face. So it's just, these are things that are happening without the open alcohol, and I live here, my daughter and me, we walk the Riverwalk all the time, and I just don't want to keep my head on a swivel. That's why I moved out of the city to come to McHenry and have a safe community, and you really have done a lot in the time that I have been here, and talking to you, Mayor. I do really appreciate everything that you have done, and thank you for your time. Sorry if I'm talking and rambling, but thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Stephanie. Anyone else with a public comment? All right. So at this time, Alderman Santee, go ahead.
If I could follow up, my opinion on this is that I just don't like what I see in front of me tonight. I guess before my next statement, just a quick question. If it's Bill, I know Molly's in the audience, but of our events, I know St. Patrick's Day, but of our events, what's the number of open carry events do we have during the summer?
We do the wine walk.
The wine walk is one, okay.
Well, Shamrock's the Fox. I mean,
Yep,
it's not
exactly.
during the summer, but
Yep.
Shamrock's the Fox.
It's once a year.
The wine walk, you do 2 wine walks, right, Molly?
Technically, the wine walks are not considered open carry because they aren't supposed to be drinking outside of
Right. Yeah, just have a drink in the business, and then that's it, then move on, yeah. Anything else?
That's it. I mean, like tonight, we let them drink in the park, but then the alcohol's not supposed to leave the park.
Okay, all right. My point being is that, maybe if we, and if it's not comfortable with, a certain amount here on this side of the desk, is that, maybe we look at something and tweak something to put into those special event nights possibly, and work from there. Those, like the Shamrocks, that's the big event, and we could adapt something maybe to the light to night possibility. But my point is that yes, what's in front of me tonight I'm not comfortable with, but I still am open to looking at tweaking or different options. Thank you.
I'll add one follow-up to that. One of the things we are looking at for the summer, and it was Alderman Strack and I had a conversation upon the development of Miller Point, was the possibility of having a concert once a month, something along the lines of Light the Night. I'm not going to speak to whatever those look like, but a smaller band. I'll say along the lines of Light the Night. It's not any national act or something along that lines. A local band that would be in the amphitheater, more of an event feel for our community to be able to come out and enjoy. That's something we've discussed, and there has been some money placed in an initial budget for the summer. But again, only speaking to your point, Alderman Santee, I just wanted to bring up that as a possibility for this coming summer.
Alderman Cook?
Seems like a little more TLC needs to be done to the Riverwalk. I mean, it's every day. I mean, during the summertime, the city of McHenry is out there watering the flowers and everything to keep everything beautiful and all that. I think that maybe that has to be done with the Riverwalk. Every day, pick up the garbage. Every day, disinfect it down or something. Check it out. It's called maintenance, I guess. And that's one thing that I'm upset just from hearing all of this. Sounds like maintenance. Nobody's out there every day picking garbage or looking or whatever to keep it up.
Our maintenance division is out there every day in the summer. We've even bought some tools to be able to attach a broom element, so we make sure the Riverwalk is swept once to twice a week, depending on the status. It's a continual maintenance item for us. It's one of our highest priority, our downtown and the Riverwalk.
It's not done every day. I mean, I know during the wintertime, kind of, sort of. But, I mean, now that it's gotten nicer and all that, nobody's checking up on it or anything? I guess this is what...
we do.
Okay.
Alderman Miller?
I'm going to show my age here, and there's a few people in the audience that are already smiling. Having owned a business on Riverside Drive for over 20 years, I was part of the group that started talking about getting people mobile from street to street and connecting the dots so that we didn't have three distinct business districts that weren't connected for a reason. This opportunity, and I'm hearing loud and clear, needs to be tweaked, is the opportunity to connect the dots. We have spent an enormous amount of money to do that through the Riverwalk. But now we're saying, go one place, and if you choose to carry a beverage, you can't go anywhere else. And I just don't find that forward thinking. We're not telling these businesses they must participate. We're saying this is the area that you are eligible to participate in if you choose to. We've already talked about the signage, that you can or cannot bring alcohol into my space of business. I think it's short-sighted if we don't revisit this, tweak it, and make it better. I think the establishment of the Wine Walk, thank you, Molly. The Chamber's done a great job. Shamrocks on the Fox, Fiesta Days, events at Smith's Garage. I think these would all promote people getting out of their comfort zone and trying something new. I remember years when I started the Holiday Walk, we had 10 participants. And then the next year, we had 12. And then the next year, we had 15, because people saw that it was progressive and good for business. So I hope that this doesn't go away. I think you've done a lot of work on it. I think it has merit. Maybe it needs to be tweaked. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments by council? All right, at this point, let's have a discussion. I'll meet with staff tomorrow, and we'll come up with a game plan, and we'll be in touch. How's that sound? And then as far as Stephanie and Steve, if you don't mind, if you could put your phone number on this sheet, I'll give it to our clerk. If you could put your phone number, I'd like to reach out to both of you tomorrow as well. All right? Because obviously our goal, even if this does not happen, we need to rectify the situations that you mentioned this evening, and we will certainly do that. So, all right? All right. Before we move on, Trish.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
Before we move on.
Go ahead.
If I could make another comment.
Go ahead.
And I feel to some extent, I think the majority of the council is not in favor of this, and I just wonder if tweaking it is going to take and flip the majority or not. Are we going to keep bringing this back to the council until we can finally get enough people to flip over, or what? I mean, I think at this time, if we don't have enough alderpersons that are willing to move forward with any kind of drinking, and there isn't a majority of that, if they feel that this isn't a good idea at all, other than special events, then I don't think we need to keep working on this and keep bringing it back. And I think we need to see how the rest of our alder people feel.
So my plan was to meet with staff tomorrow and have a conversation, but I think the one-on-one, which is something that I do very often with this council, is contact one-on-one and see what kind of changes they would want if we end up moving forward or not. For instance, instead of doing a Thursday through Sunday, a Friday or Saturday, or a Saturday and Sunday just for the weekend. Is there something we can try for the first year just to see how it works, Thursday through Sunday is 4 days. I mean, if we switch it to 2, is that something that the council supports? And without having a discussion for 2 hours tonight on one item, I think Suzanne and I will meet with staff tomorrow. We'll have a conversation, and I would like to contact the council members one-on-one and see if there's any support of making some modifications. If not, we don't bring it back.
Well, I'd still like to see where the council stands right now as far as whether they'd want any kind of alcohol other than special events for this dining and entertainment district.
Okay. Is there any council members that do not want any alcohol walking at all through the downtown?
Are we talking at all, or just possibly for special events?
At all. For this plan, for this, for this ordinance.
Oh, okay.
Alderman Strack?
I think at this point, as I stated previously, I feel like if I'm at an establishment along the Riverwalk and I need to take a cocktail with me, I have not a long stretch of walk before I'm at another establishment to be able to attain another drink. I don't personally feel like we need to have that public consumption in that short of amount of span. So, and again, as I previously stated from the comments I got from those business owners that I discussed with, they were against that plan as well. Maintaining those business entities having to manage that as well was their concerns, and I understand those concerns from them. I understand we have to police it, but at this point, whether you change that ordinance or not, I am probably a no vote in that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wish that business would have showed up and gave their input. That's, versus, well, whatever. Okay. Go ahead.
Just like Alderman Glab and Alderman Stratch, I will not be changing my opinion on it based on all of the feedback I've gotten from other people. You can tweak it all you want, but I'm still going to be a strong no.
Okay. Alderman McClatchy?
I'm sticking with what I said earlier. I think it could probably work out if it was just on the Riverwalk, but once you start feeding in the whole Green Street Riverside Drive thing, it's just causing a lot of concerns with me. So, no.
Okay. Alderman Cook?
We don't have this even in place, and there are problems with garbage and, beer cans and everything else like that. So, I don't know, why would we promote it?
Okay. All right, so this item's dead. So we'll move on to 6B, regarding a TIF district presentation by S.B. Friedman. Director Pawlowski?
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of talk about the downtown tonight. So some council members were on the council when we created the original TIF. I think Alderman Glab, you were, and Alderman McClatchy, were you? Maybe Alderman Sandy, but most were not. With the upcoming discussions that we have about the development, potential development in the downtown, staff thought it would be advantageous to bring in S.B. Friedman, who is one of the leaders in the industry in TIF consulting, to give just a high-level overview of why we create TIF districts, what they're used for, and some of the challenges that we do have with TIF districts. So Jeff Dickinson's here from S.B. Friedman. He's going to give a short presentation on the TIF districts, and then council, you can ask questions of Jeff. So Jeff, here, you need this.
And Jeff, if you could just hit the center button on that, the larger button right in the middle. There you go.
Good evening. Thanks, Russ. Nice to see you all. Good to be here. Great. Slides are up. Thanks. Let me get my readers on here.
Should be the middle one.
Middle one, thanks. It's very elegantly designed. Great. So I'm Jeff Dickinson. I'm with S.B. Friedman, as Russ said. We are economic development consultants. We work for developers and we work for cities. We mostly work for municipalities like you all. We're urban planners by training, but we work at the intersection of public-private finance generally. So this is sort of what we do, essentially. We are your consultant right now, so we're working for the city, and some of the things we do is we help cities evaluate requests for financial assistance. Sometimes it's TIF, sometimes it's other sources of money, and evaluate those, essentially help develop information to bring to city councils and village boards to make decisions. In this case, as I said, this is sort of a general presentation about TIF and how it works in public-private partnerships more broadly. So it's, that's close. That's good. Thank you, whoever fixed it. So I guess when I talk about TIF in meetings like this, we tend to put it in a context of public-private partnerships. So TIF is a tool. It's a financial tool that municipalities can use to formulate partnerships with the private sector. Obviously, you guys can do lots of things in the public right-of-way and other ways to make investments, but TIF and tools like it are sort of peculiar in that you have to interface with private investment and use the public sector's dollars to leverage private investment. In our context, it's usually around real estate projects, and it's usually around real estate projects with a significant, what is considered public benefit, an outsized public benefit. So I think, generally speaking, development is a good thing. A new, fast food restaurant on the edge of town is a wonderful thing. It generally doesn't need public assistance. And we tend to work on projects that are trickier and in more important places like downtowns where cities and people care a lot, or where the public benefits, potential public benefits, are really significant, and therefore elected bodies like you all think they might be worth putting public money into a substantially private project. Why would a city do that? It is, as I say, odd for municipalities to participate financially in what is largely private development projects. There's a list of reasons why it happens, but as I say, it's not an everyday occurrence. It could be to fund public infrastructure, public utility extensions, things like that are necessary to unlock private investment. Sometimes there are extraordinary costs. There's something really messed up about a site that needs monies outside of a normal debt and equity in order to get a project built. Sometimes towns will try to invest in a project that will help prove a market. So up until recently, lots of towns hadn't had a lot of apartment buildings in their downtown, for example. And villages would say, we really want an apartment project because we want to support our downtown or our train station or whatever. Let's help the first project get going, make the financial outcomes better than they would be without some assistance, and hopefully the second project goes without public assistance. So it's sort of priming the pump or helping make a market or prove a market. Sometimes it's a finish or a level of design. The market will build a B-plus building in a town, and this board wants an A building. Literally, materials. You can't pay for the materials. That's a separate thing technically. But cities will say, we care a lot about this. We want to raise the level of design or finish or something. These are all public purposes, public goals that are beyond pure real estate. We want to build 20 apartments and have a bunch of people living in them. It's a simpler goal. And again, sometimes that's the goal. It depends on where your community is. Just getting any kind of apartment or any kind of retail or whatever could be a big lift for some towns that they have to participate financially in. Other places, the market will produce garden variety product. They want extra special things. Sometimes it's a retention strategy. So I apologize, I don't know much about your other TIFs. Sometimes it's to attract a business or an employer. And it wouldn't necessarily be in a downtown environment, but the wages and all the opportunities that produces for the community may be worthy of public intervention. So there's a lot of reasons to do it, but they're always sort of unique to the goals of the community and the economics often of the particular project. This last bullet is essentially, financial feasibility is the problem that this tool helps solve for. Rents are here. The rents we need to make this feasible are here. The rents just they're not there yet. It's whatever it is, $1.75 a foot for an apartment. The market needs $1.85 for it to pencil. TIF can be the solution to that essentially rent gap. So there's a lot of different ways to think about why you might want to invest in a project. And again, these are obviously board decisions or council decisions, but we help outline these issues for your consideration and frame them to make the question, I think, as comprehensive as we can. At the root of it, the goal is blight elimination. That's the statutory motivation, economic development, or tax-based growth generally. So these are, again, sort of different facets of why a city cares to put public money into a private development project. And so over the long term, obviously TIFs last 23 years if you don't close them out early. And so you and the other taxing bodies forego property taxes for that period or some portion of that period. So you have to be building for a long-term tax-based growth generally. But again, if you're not going to get it otherwise, you make the investment and then you reap the rewards downstream. So more specifically, what is TIF? Again, I think probably everybody has some understanding of it, but it is a geographically targeted tool. Most towns have a small percentage of their total land area or tax base in TIF districts. Even the city of Chicago, which is a place that people talk about, is has lots of TIFs. I don't know what percentage of it is. A very, very large percentage of the city is not in a TIF. Very few of the neighborhoods, for example, the city of Chicago, are in a TIF. A lot of commercial corridors, downtowns, places where more active intervention and economic development goes on is where you generally see TIF districts, or in special places, downtowns. So those are the kinds of places where a district goes, but it's got a circle. It's got a boundary around it. What it does is it does not create new taxes. It diverts taxes that would normally go, and I'll have a chart to explain this in a different way in a second, that would normally, incremental growth in property taxes, normally would be distributed to all of the affected taxing bodies, so the schools, the county, the city, and it diverts those to a TIF fund. That TIF fund is controlled by this council, and you choose how to spend the money to best effectuate the goals of the TIF district. So it's a tax diversion tool, essentially is what happens. That's where the money comes from. Taxes that would otherwise wouldn't exist, but that are being generated or diverted into this fund that you all would control. It is highly flexible. It is the most powerful tool for funding economic development in the state of Illinois. It's a state-enabled legislation. The power is delegated to you. It is not a tax increase, as I said. It's a tax diversion. And how you spend the money is not an entitlement. Again, it's a separate decision. Every time a village or city wants to decide to spend TIF dollars, it comes before a vote. And a council decides this is a project that has the outcomes we want. The economics we understand and can appreciate and are willing to do it. This is the structure that we're going to provide the money. There's a lot of control at the council level. So if it's not going to produce the outcome you want, you just don't consider it, or you consider it briefly and you move on. But it is not an entitlement. Some places we've worked, when it's not handled correctly, it sort of looks like an entitlement. I will not name names of other communities where it's not even in Illinois. It's a bigger city in the western part of the U.S., and it was treated procedurally essentially as an entitlement, and that basically just messed up land values in the whole city or anywhere there was a TIF district. So it can be misused. You have to use it carefully. But when used wisely, you can, in a targeted geographic way, spend public money to help achieve public outcomes. A little bit of technical information. TIF is a reimbursement tool, so the taxes are generated by the project. They flow into the TIF fund, and then if it's public-private deal, the developer has to seek reimbursement from the TIF fund. So, and you can't pay for everything. That's the short of it. The simplest way to think about what a TIF cannot pay for is it cannot pay for the cost to construct a new building. It can pay for demolition. It can pay for environmental remediation. It can pay for site preparation. It can pay for improvements in the right-of-way, soft costs. So there are numerous things you can pay for, but you can't pay for the building itself. So there's some technical issues to work through that, but that's just frequently a structuring challenge. Obviously, in a rehab, you can pay for rehab. So if you're rehabilitating an older building, all those costs are good, but new construction is a little more complicated. Thank you. Someone's fixing this for me. I appreciate it. You're going to straighten it out, Ross? Thank you. If we, again, sort of rethink about when and how should a city or a municipality provide TIF assistance, the most important of these sort of quadrants is the upper left for me. Does it contribute to important public policy goals? Why is this different from every other project? Projects come forward, they get financed and built all the time. Cities don't put money into them. Why is this one worthy of public money? And it's got to do something extra special for the town, or for the neighborhood, or for the tax base or something. To the right there, is it economically feasible with assistance? Part of our job when we're working for cities is to help make sure that we're not providing too much money in assistance, but we also can't provide too little. The deal's got to be structured in a way that the private side of the financing can work. So it's a balancing act. You want to give just enough money to make the deal go, not too much and not too little. And it doesn't always work. Pro formas aren't always right, and when it comes to financing, sometimes deals don't work, but that's the goal, is to get the math just right. The economics are volatile, rents change, costs change, but that's the plan. The lower left is a crucial one too. You don't want to help a project that would go on its own. So again, that's part of our job, to underwrite the deal and make sure we understand why there's a gap between what the project can support and the cost and the available funds, that we're filling the gap appropriately and filling it sufficiently that it will go. If it'll go without help, you should just let it go, and then that should happen. And if we believe that analytically in the market, cities shouldn't help. That's the gist of it. And then finally, does it have significant benefits, be they fiscal or community-wide, to support the goals of the downtown or the district or the city or whatever the unit of geography is? The benefits of the TIF tool, it's based on, the money comes from the future. It comes from future taxes. So if you're looking solely on a TIF district-based source, if the project builds out and the taxes come in at 2/3 of what the projections were, that's as much money as there is depending on the structuring, to pay the developer. So there's an alignment of goals, and we're not taking money out of one pocket to help fund a project if it's based on in-pin increment or solely a TIF source. It can be a material source. I guess that's really bullet 2. It is locally controlled. You all have the power to do this. There's some nuances around Joint Review Board feedback and other things, but broadly speaking, it's in the control of governing bodies, city councils. And it pairs well with other sources when those are needed, so sales tax sharing agreements, business districts. You can bring those all together for tougher deals that need more help. So it's flexible in that regard. And it can also be used to support public projects as necessary. We've seen it used to support rehabilitation of a school or a park district facility that's in a TIF district that would, when those projects would benefit the TIF district. We've seen it used to help pay for some of the administration costs of the district. So it's got a lot of facets. It can help support a lot of things, and it's locally controlled and locally enabled. The criticisms, common criticisms, people worry that it's a tax hike. That's the most common worry. You're raising the taxes. That's just categorically not true. It's a tax diversion, as I said. The other point I'd like to make about this is there is often not really a do-nothing option. Sometimes that's something that people consider. Often the places that people ask us to look at are seeing flat property values or declining property values already. So if you've got 5 years of flat or declining values, but the cost of running a city are going up, effectively the decline in that study area is leading to tax increases for the rest of the town already. That's how you keep paying your bills, is that everybody else has to pay more. That's how levy-based taxation works. So, again, it can be, there are do-nothing options, but it's not uncommon to say, if we do nothing, this particular neighborhood is going to continue to trend downward, and that means that the tax burden is going to continue to shift away from this area that needs the intervention. Does it divert money from school and other taxing districts? The answer to that is no also. The way levy-based taxation works, usually, and again, I don't know the particulars of the other taxing bodies here, but if these are PTEL limited tax-capped bodies, they can only raise their levy by a certain amount every year. They get that money. So imagine the levy's only allowed to increase by 2% a year. The TIF has nothing to do with that. They raise their budget by 2%, they get a 2% budget increase. So TIF is really not related to that equation, particularly if you believe that the project would not occur without the TIF intervention. They're not missing out on anything, because if you don't provide TIF assistance, you got 100% of nothing. That's the basic premise there. Further, for the schools, if there are TIF-supported housing units and school-age children live there, municipalities are required to make payments, first-dollar payments out of the TIF fund to the schools to help educate those kids. So that's yet another way that there's protection. And in fact, again, because the schools get their PTEL limited levy increase, the tuition payments are above and beyond that. So arguably, the school districts are better off, or at least in certain cases they are. And finally, as I said, if there are taxing district capital costs that are relevant or related to the TIF district, the TIF can be used to help fund those if the city council deems those worthy of the spending. Again, these are all council decisions. The last one here is the TIF is successful only if the tax base grows. If you create a TIF district and no values go up, there's just no money. That's the way it works. So there's a budget and a TIF plan, but if there's no increase in value, there's no taxes, and there's no way to pay for anything. So again, we want every TIF to succeed massively and generate all the outcomes that communities want, but it's all calibrated by real dollars, essentially, that are generated by successful redevelopment or development. A little graphic on how it works. Probably should just go to the second one. It's not going to work very well without that. But this is the sort of thinking about what happens to taxes in a TIF environment. To the left of the TIF adoption is, we've assumed essentially a flat tax base in the study area. Again, sometimes that's going up, mostly it's not. Mostly it's going down or it's flat. In the darker blue and the orange period, the taxing bodies keeps getting the dark gray, I guess it is, over the 23-year life of the TIF district. Insofar as values go up, incremental taxes are created. That orange section is the money that's diverted to the TIF fund that you control to reinvest in the district. So the base value is what we call them. The base taxes are essentially protected through TIF. It's a frozen line. Again, if the value on those base parcels goes down, it's not totally true, but this is broadly speaking the way it works. And you'd have that orange to help pay for things that are extraordinary or crucial to achieve the redevelopment goals that you've got. And the last slide, I think it's the last one, is about the mechanics of it, more or less the last slide. This is how you create a TIF district. There are, I guess, the point of this slide largely is there are several steps. There are lots of opportunities. Items come before this council or any municipal governing body. There's a decision to proceed with the designation. There's a decision, we would conduct the study and draft a report, and we would run that obviously through your staff and through you all. But assuming that we're still moving forward, there's a meeting to set the time and place of the public hearing. There's a joint review board meeting. There are mailings. There are notices. There's a public hearing requirement, and then there's a vote. So there are lots of opportunities for the community to engage with this and you all to engage in the process. Make sure it's doing what you want, or it's for the area that you want. And again, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, and you can stop. So it's, and this is just to create the district. So the decision to actually spend the money is a separate set of decisions. It's a little less complicated to spend money. People bring a proposal forward. You guys know how to, allocate government money. But to create the district is quite a process. I think on purpose, the legislature wanted to make sure it didn't surprise anybody, didn't jump up on anybody. There's a lot of chances to engage with the TIF district if cities choose to go through it. The actual last slide is it's just some summary bullets. It's a public-private tool. It essentially supports projects that would otherwise not happen. It is a diversion of incremental taxes. It's not new taxes, and it can be flexible to support private and public needs. Hope that's okay. Happy to answer questions if anybody has any.
Ross, go ahead.
Thanks, Jeff. So I know this isn't the most exciting thing in the world to listen to, but moving forward with all the development interest in the downtown, these are some decisions that the city council is going to have to make, especially with who's up next. Shodina's up next, and they're requesting a re-TIF of an area to help development. So I just want to make sure that, as staff, that the city council has a complete understanding of what the TIFs are, why we use them, how we use them, and if there's any questions that Jeff is here to answer, because by no means am I an expert at TIF districts. I mean, I feel I have a good, and Bill has been a wonderful TIF officer. Is that what you? TIF administrator for our current TIF, and led the charge to get the current TIF extended. But if there's any questions for Jeff, now is your chance to go ahead and throw them out there.
Alderman Gleb?
Yeah, this, I guess, partially a question and partly a statement. If we go to what are the challenges and criticisms of TIF, and again, I am a supporter of TIF, okay? I have been from the time we first initiated it. However, I also believe that we tell our residents everything the way it really is. And you say that TIF does not increase property taxes for existing residents and businesses. It does. It does. Maybe not a significant amount, but there is a higher amount that every resident does pay when you take a certain part of the EAV out of the equation. Because, like you show further down, the school districts and all the government bodies, they still get the money that they allocate for, and somebody's got to pay it. And if you take the TIF out of there, then that means the rest of them pay a little bit more. And it's not a huge amount more, but it is more. So to say that it doesn't increase property taxes, it doesn't significantly increase property taxes, but it does increase your taxes, because people need to know that. They need to know that we're open and honest with them. And again, I fully support the TIF. I think we definitely have used it to our benefit. It has really hurt us when we had the downswing in the property values back in 2007. But again, we need to be upfront as far as the fact that yes, it does. Every taxpayer or property taxpayer within each government body does pay a little bit more because of this part being drawn out. And I just wanted to bring that out, that's all.
Alderman Strack?
Thanks for being here tonight, Jeff. We appreciate the presentation. I have not had the pleasure of going through this TIF before, so I just have a couple real basic things. As we look at this area and possibly creating some of these new ones, I know you can't give me an exact time flow of this, because you never know. There's all kinds of variables. But I guess just for my own interest, can you answer what a typical time frame is when you are trying to either remove and recreate or establish a new TIF, just so that we all kind of have a generalization of what that timing looks like?
Sure, yeah. Broadly speaking, we've worked on TIFs from one parcel to thousands of parcels, so that's probably the single biggest variable in terms of timeline. But let's call it a normal TIF, which, 50, 100, 200 parcels, it's more or less a 6-month process from start to finish. So it's about 3 months of, we do our homework, we draft a report, it goes to your staff, it comes to you. There's a process to get that in a final form. That usually takes, give or take, 3 months. And then the statute essentially dictates that there's 3 months after that of noticing and approval, or not approval, notice and public engagement and deliberation and all that stuff. So and to take a parcel out of a TIF, and David can correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but if you just singularly taking a parcel out of a 100 parcel TIF, it takes an ordinance and it can be done, you write a notice, and it's just not a snap of a finger is a little silly, but it's pretty quick and easy. So that's not a complicated thing, but creating a new TIF or adding land to a TIF is essentially equivalent to creating new TIF. So if you were to literally add one parcel, it's 6 months. Take out one parcel, it's 6 minutes. That's an exaggeration, but that's the idea.
Great. One more follow-up. On that, this is your specialty. This is what you guys do. Are there, in what you've seen from our community thus far, are there anything that are flags for you that would say, this one could be more difficult, this one's not, this is your specialty, this is what you do? Are these pretty typical of what you see in other communities as well?
We've only really thought even a bit about your downtown, and I guess I can speak broadly about downtowns. We've worked on a lot of what we call sort of DTIF, RETIF exercises, I guess is the sort of informal description of it. My experience in lots of downtowns all over the suburbs is the downtowns are hard. They take a long time. They take a long time to build. They take a long time to redevelop, and so we've on more than one occasion had to take some of the parcels out of the downtown TIF and either shrink it down, and then re-TIF a portion of those parcels again. Sometimes it expands a little bit, like the downtown is changing shape, and we want to go another 2 blocks this way. So that is again, if you succeeded, I can think of a suburban downtown where we did a DTIF re-TIF. And in the first generation of that TIF, they saw development of probably 5 downtown condominium buildings. Great, terrific, you did it. There's also 15 blocks that didn't get there. And so the DTIF was take the 5 out, re-TIF 13 of the 15, call it, and then we added 4 or 5 other blocks on the other side of the tracks because the village changed their mind. They're like, look, we were only looking on the north side of the tracks. We want our downtown to be on both sides of the tracks. And that was a sort of policy direction that we got. So that's kind of a rambling answer. I hope that gets to your question, but it's the situation that I sort of understand is pretty normal, I guess.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Glab?
Just one other thing, I happened to mention the 2007 and how we dipped over there and everything as far as the TIF. But one of the things to remember is the fact that I think one of the biggest saviors of the TIF was when we went down Waukegan and we actually built those townhouses, because they do help fund the TIF with their property taxes tremendously. So I just want to bring that out, the fact that those townhouses have significantly helped out the TIF through the years.
Yeah, having that project done so early in our TIF really became the driver and the engine for our TIF as a whole. It really just because it created that multiplier that year after year after year it continues to grow. So yeah, that was certainly the foundation for our TIF.
Hey, Jeff, if you don't mind, can you respond to Alderman Glab's comment about increasing the taxes and the taxing bodies and so forth? Can you respond to that at all?
Sure. It's complicated, but there is some truth to that statement for sure. It depends on the facts, I guess I would say. In my one hypothetical, and I don't obviously have any facts that we've developed here, but if the study area has been seeing declines in value preceding the creation of the TIF, again, if we assume that would have continued without it, you would see a tax, the thing you're describing would have happened anyway. I guess that's one scenario, where you don't do anything, and the property values keep going. That's going to produce a shift of tax burden to the other taxpayers. I guess the other thing in that universe is the decision to spend more money is a governing body decision generally, and so if there is other development going on in these other taxing bodies, they don't have to raise the tax levy. They can take the new EAV, keep the levy flat, and then there is no effect on the rest of the taxing district, or taxpayer. So it's complicated, I guess, is my short answer. And your scenario is one of the scenarios for sure, but I don't know the particulars here as to whether it's always the case that it would result in and I agree with you completely, it would be a very, very small marginal increase, but even that isn't necessarily the case, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I mean, let's face it, if every taxing body receives what they appropriate, okay, and this part of the taxing entities are not contributing to that, that means the rest of them have to be paying more. Again, like you say, it's a very minute amount, but don't say that it doesn't increase property taxes.
Well, they still get the frozen base. So if we believe
there is an insignificant amount that does, and to say that it doesn't increase them at all, it does affect them. And I think it's actually a positive for the city of McHenry, because our school districts and all these other taxing bodies are not just limited to the city of McHenry. So that means all of them wind up paying a little bit more within each of those taxing bodies. So it's a plus for the city on that too. But it's always good to just tell the residents the way it is. Stand for what you believe in, but tell them exactly what it is and be willing to explain it to them.
Any other questions, comments by council? All right, Jeff, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good to see you all.
All right, next on the agenda is 6C, is a conceptual presentation by Shodine Group for 1111 Green Street. Dave, how are you, sir?
Doing very well, thank you.
The floor is yours. Or at least, Ross, did you have any input? Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody's familiar with Dave. He's been here before. We've been working on the central wastewater treatment plant and the Green Street parking lots with Dave. However, now another property has popped up on his radar, 1111 Green, former City Hall that everybody's familiar with. So Dave's here to give a really high-level presentation on what his plans are, or conceptual plans are for this property. He does have a few asks that he's going to go over. Staff is looking for some direction on a couple of things. One of them, the big one, has been always a hot topic, is parking. You'll see how that plays into when Dave gives his presentation, the re-tiffing of the property, and then just the overall site plan of the property as well. So, Dave, the floor is yours.
Thank you. For the record, David Patzelt, P-A-T-Z-E-L-T, the Shodine Group, 77 North 1st Street, Geneva, Illinois. My first slide here, if you could...
Yeah, I'm going to assist you, Dave.
Thank you. The site we're talking about this evening is been either dubbed Waukegan and Green or 1111 North Green Street. Generally is the northwest corner of Waukegan and Green Street, highlighted here in a pink or red tone. It's approximately a 1.25 or 1 1/4 acre site. Currently on the site is the former City Hall building that is closed and is really just used for storage today. And the parking lot remains open and is leased by some neighboring property owners. Immediately to the west of the site is the historic landmark elementary school. Next slide, please. First part of this slide on the left-hand side illustrates for you a couple of the difficult situations or problems or issues that have come up on this site. One of them you have prior council meetings you took some action to try to mitigate some easements on it, but the first one starting at the up the top in the two red notes. Again, I'm on the left-hand side of the slide. There currently is an existing sanitary sewer that actually goes under the existing City Hall building. That sanitary sewer needs to be relocated, and as part of our plan, we're suggesting that with working with staff, that sanitary sewer would be relocated to the north. It, in essence, flows from the west and would be flowing out into Green Street. Second issue, it's the red note at the bottom. There's the heavier black line with talks about the existing ComEd overhead wires, and those overhead wires extend all the way from Waukegan on the south. They continue across, or to the north, across Boone Creek, and zigzag a little bit up through what I'll call the Green and Elm property behind the Green Cafe and the Thai restaurant, all the way up to Route 120 Elm Street. And the relocation of those overhead lines is going to be a topic that we'll talk about later this evening, involving re-engineering of that work. But those overhead lines need to be relocated in order to use the entire site. Additionally, there's some involvement with those lines, working with the city staff. It's suggested, and ComEd has initially given us that they concur with it, that those lines would be relocated into Green Street itself. And so another element to be worked with is with the redevelopment or the streetscape of Green Street is incorporating the conduit or raceway for those Commonwealth Edison lines. And then lastly, on the right-hand side of that, the left slide, but on the right-hand side, you'll see some red arrows pointing to not only the existing right-of-way and the proposed right-of-way. You'll see that the existing right-hand turn lane for southbound Green Street actually crosses onto private property today. And then as part of this site, what's made it a little bit of a challenge is, I'll call it the elbow or the bend in that easterly property line of the site, has caused a little bit of a pinch point on the site as a whole in trying to get a good modular building and good efficient parking laid out in there. Fortunately enough, the proposed Green Street streetscape plan allows for the right-of-way at that pinch point, I'll say, to be reduced. So we are going to, as part of our plan, we'll be taking a little bit of the right-of-way at that pinch point, but Green Street, as proposed, will still be able to flow, and you'll see that on my future slides. On the right-hand side of this slide, we try to do an overlay of the existing Riverwalk plan that has been done some time ago. It's not necessarily the final plan, but it is one of the plans that has been here at City Hall, and so we thought it'd be appropriate to overlay that proposed Riverwalk plan and see how that incorporates in with our existing building. I'll go to the next slide. So you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, for those of you that like to get right into the numbers, a couple of giveaways here. You'll see it. We call this Site Study 6. Yes, there's been 6 other plans that have been developed for the site. So this is Plan 6, and I'm going to take you backwards a little bit here in a future slides. I'm going to walk you back to Site Study number 4, just for discussion purposes. But also for numbers, the table in the upper left-hand corner gives you a lot of data that you may want to keep note of. First is that we're proposing residential units over a parking garage, and there's a total of 88 residential units proposed here on 4 stories. Those 88 units are broken down between studio apartments, 1-bedroom apartments, and 2-bedroom apartments. In addition, we're proposing 3,200 square feet of commercial space and a parking garage of 157 spaces, as well as street parking of 7 spaces. I'd like to walk you through the plan to try to help you understand how those quantities all fit into this proposed building footprint. As starting in the Up at the top or the left, you'll see the Riverwalk plan, again, has been brought into this plan. This sheet that you're looking at is what we call the lowest level, or I'll call it floor number 1. Floor number 1 has the 3,200 square feet at the north end of the building. That is proposed with to be commercial space. Ideally, we see it as being a restaurant space. That restaurant space we're proposing would have outdoor dining of some sort, and to give you an idea of what that outdoor dining could look like along the Riverwalk, we've given you some photograph examples on the right-hand side. There would need to be some coordination between us as the property owner, the restaurateur, and the Riverwalk, as well as the city, as to is that land, is it owned by the developer, yet an easement for the Riverwalk, or is it owned by the city and used for the Riverwalk, and then an easement back to the restaurateur to use that some portion of that as outdoor space? And then there's also the question of liquor consumption. We've been having a discussion so much about earlier today, but liquor consumption in this restaurant on that space. So again, those details would need to get fleshed out and worked out with staff and brought back before you when we get into a redevelopment agreement. But so that is on floor 1. You have the commercial space at the north. Upper right-hand corner of that floor plan, you'll see a red triangle that's generally pointing to the west, and it's filled in completely with red. That happens to be the pedestrian access point, or the main entry to the residential units. That, in essence, would come through that white space, which is a hallway with mailboxes on the right-hand side. Once you enter the L, which is the lobby, that is your elevator lobby. The E is the elevator that would take you up to floors 3 through 6, and then immediately to the upper left of the elevator is the trash room. Trash would be serviced by a trash chute that would come from the residential floors, and then the commercial space would also have access to that trash room. You'll see coming down south on Green Street, about the center of the building, you'll see again a red triangle that is not filled in with red. That happens to be the vehicular access into the floor 1 parking garage. You'll see in gray, it's generally showing you the parking lot layout and the drive aisles, and generally you can see that it is a relatively, I'll say, efficient parking lot where you don't have a lot of circuitous parking spaces, but generally all perpendicular parking spaces. If you look where that garage door is, or that triangle is pointing to that vehicular entrance, you'll see that there's a little bit color change in the parking garage, and we were trying to highlight for you the change in that elbow or that kink part of the right-of-way that I was describing to you earlier. So about where the garage door is where the existing right-of-way is, and the right-of-way would need to be pulled out so that to the east, so that the building is all on private property, and yet you can see from this illustration that the Green Street would have proposed diagonal parking on the west side, as compared to today, it has parallel parking on the west side. Again, the Green Street, as it's laid out here, is consistent with the proposed Green Street reconstruction. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to take you up a floor to level 2 parking. Again, I'll start at the north side of the plan. You can see that it says open to commercial. So the commercial space, or that restaurant space, due to ceiling heights in the commercial space, that happens to be, in essence, 2-story tall space. So that there is not an additional floor of commercial there. It, in essence, is it's open from the first floor. Second floor, if I'm on Waukegan Street, generally towards in the southwest corner of the building footprint, again you'll see a red triangle that has a white center. That is the vehicular access point to level 2 parking. So there's no internal ramp connecting the two floors of this building. In essence, to access level 1 parking would be off of Green Street. Access parking level 2 is from Waukegan Street. Not to confuse you with the numbers in the upper left-hand corner, again, those are the same numbers you saw on the prior sheet. Again, it's just carrying those forward. They're not to be additive to each other. If I go to the next slide, this gives you a typical layout of the residential floors. There's 4 floors with, in essence, 22 units per floor. The color of each of the units, it just tries to draw your attention or break apart where the units may be separated. And then on the right-hand side of that slide, it gives you a general layout of the 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and studio units. Before you change that slide, I'm just going to have you refresh your memory if you can remember that there's 88 residential units on 4 stories, and there's 157 parking spaces on these 2 levels. If we go to the next slide, this happened to be site study number 4. Site study number 4 was done back in September of 23, and it's something that we had discussed with staff. In essence, it contains 66 units, and that's highlighted in the, I'll call it the red or pink cloud, and then I just have carried forward the site study 6 quantities so that you can have a comparison. But that was a residential building, had 3 levels of residential units. You can see the breakdown there for of those, and that had a 1 level of garage parking at 74 parking spaces. Why do I bring this before you? The question that we had been discussing with staff was there is an existing parking demand that is, or not a demand, there is an existing parking count that is out there today on the site. There's no demand per se because the building is vacant. Where's that demand or where are those cars coming from? The River Place building across the street is one of the tenant that is renting the parking spaces on this site. Unfortunately, as I understand it, that at some point in time, that when River Place was built, there was to be a parking garage associated with that project. There was no parking garage was ever built. Financial hardship, something happened with the project. In order to keep the project moving, the garage was not built. Generally, the cars are parking on this site. So, discussion with staff has been is should we be providing for those cars that are parking there today, should they be able to maintain parking on 1111 North Green? If they do, can we park them? So the math and the work that had been done was going to study number 6 with 2 levels of parking and the 88 units. We'll talk a little bit how we can now pay for that if we want to move that direction. Going to my next slide, as you've heard me say in the past, this is a public-private partnership, and wanted to give you a little bit of an update of where we are at with the redevelopment process on this site. As we know, and I'm presenting to you this evening, we've submitted a plan for concept review before you that has been flushed and worked out with staff. It's not totally approved yet, but we're hoping to get your feedback this evening. Based on this plan, the question was raised is, can we afford to build the 2 levels of parking, and what can we generate in a TIF increment based on this, on the 88 residential units, and can we pay to build all of this parking? Quick answer is no, we can't. And that, in essence, jumps to the bottom of the slide, which generated what was the financial ask. So the financial ask that we had submitted to the city consultant was for, in essence, $6 million in TIP that the project could generate, but there was also still a $2 million shortfall, mainly due to the paying for the additional parking spaces. So that was our financial ask, and what we do and how we go about that is we prepare a pro forma. That pro forma provides the cost to construct the building and the parking. In addition, it then forecasts what the rents will be in the proposed apartments. It then also forecasts what the property tax will be generated, and then that runs into what kind of bond can be paid for based on current interest rates, and what, in essence, does the property will it draw or generate for as far as the TIF goes. That we, again, have submitted that to the consultant. The consultant, S.B. Friedman, has reviewed that. I have not read that study. That study just recently came back to staff. I don't think it's been fully vetted or reviewed by staff. I understand that it came out just as agendas were coming out, so some things had crossed in the wire. But in essence, your consultant should be or will be reviewing and giving you some professional advice or indication that this developer has proposed, what he has proposed has some legitimate analysis, including both costs and projected revenues and rents. If I can go to the next slide. So from here going forward, where do we go, or what do we do? We really need to get the City Council's opinion on the direction of parking. If, let's say, for example, City Council says, okay, we understand that problem was there, we truly agree that we need 2 levels of parking, then I would suggest the council give direction to staff, the consultant, and the developer, go figure out how to get this paid for. If the council says that you would not want to provide that direction, then I think the next question is, okay, for this site, we really can't build 1.5 decks of parkings. It's either 1 layer of parking or 2 layers of parking. So in essence, I see it as, is it option 4 or is it option 6? If it is option 4, then I believe what we may get in public comment is those residents that are currently parking in that area or businesses are going to be before us and concerned about where are they going to park when 1111 gets built. Another option, if there is a concern that what Shodine is forecasting as an estimated cost, that perhaps the city can build the garage for less, certainly we would say, okay, if the city wants to build the garage and we will build the apartments on top of the garage, that is another option. I've never, in all of the projects and redevelopment that I've been involved with, the municipalities have never wanted to get involved in doing the heavy construction work, but I don't want to take that off the table as an option. So if that decision is then reached, my request would be is that then a council direct the city attorney and city staff to work with the developer to prepare a redevelopment agreement. That redevelopment agreement would then come back before city council for review and approval. At the same time, we're going to be talking a little bit later here about the ComEd lines. So I think we need direction on that to proceed forward. You've also heard the word DTIF, RETIF. I've been with the Shodine organization for over 30 years. We do TIF work. We've done TIF work in new TIFs. We've done TIF work in old TIFs. And we've done work in DTIFs and RETIFs. And I can tell you that Jeff gave a description of a DTIF and a RETIF. I've been involved with projects that have gone through a DTIF and a RETIF, and in the end of the day, after doing all that work, the project did not meet financial pro forma, so all of it fell on the wayside. It's unfortunate, it's years of work, but that's what happens when we are getting into high inflation on construction materials. So just if you think that solving DTIFing and RETIFing is going to bring the project, not necessarily so. They take time to get done. As you heard Jeff say, 6 months. A lot can change in the market in 6 months. So I don't want you to think that if you've made a decision to DTIF and RETIF that is the hitting the ball out of the park and we're all going to make it home and score on a project. It's not. Other items I had on that slide, as you've heard me describe, the Riverwalk is kind of interwound with this proposed building. So at some point through our process, I would encourage the council to give some direction to staff on what to do with the Riverwalk and how does the design of the Riverwalk get wrapped in with this project. And then lastly, you've heard me talk about the sanitary sewer that needs to be relocated, so that would involve some engineering work with the Shodine and the Riverwalk as to where that sanitary sewer can be accessed, as well as where does the engineering department feel that sanitary sewer needs to be. And then lastly, while all of that is going on, we would eventually need to go before the Plan Commission and have any zoning variances. We believe that we have at least one issue with that is building height. However, building height could change based on whether we go with 2 floors of parking or 1 floor of parking, and whether we're going with 3 floors of residential or 4 floors. With that is my presentation, but here for questions and anything else where I might be able to answer for you.
Thank you, Dave. All right, we'll start it out with Alderman Santee. Go ahead.
Thank you, David, for the presentation. Couple of questions. If we have 2 levels of parking and the total space count is 157?
Correct.
Okay. Safe to say that, number 1, residents there at the building, and then number 2, public, and then number 3, possibly looking at potential spaces for across the street. Is there any idea, or do we have any thoughts about what numbers are needed for the units, and then what do we have left for public and potentially for across the street?
I have not done any count as to what number of residential spaces are needed for the building across the street. I have just tried to get a general idea of the number of cars that I see in the lot at any particular point in time. And so using that number of cars that are there today, at a particular hour, I feel confident that the 2 levels of parking, the 157, we would be okay with, we would have enough parking there. I don't know how many of those cars are commercial generated cars or how many are the residential generated cars. If that helps you, but certainly there's study work that could be done. We would probably have to talk with the owner of that River Place to see if they even register or keep track of their number of vehicles for residential use.
Yeah, I believe I know there's agreement. I don't know what the number is, but I know there's a certain amount that Riverwalk building is using across the street for residents.
I believe it's around 20.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 44 spots in that entire
okay, so that's
parking area.
Only the upper portion of the lot is used for.
Okay.
Well, the 2 is 20 up there.
What's the if it was 2 levels of parking, do we have we have some conceptual drawings, but what's the total height there? Do you have any idea? Jeff, or I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that, we have not prepared building elevations yet. The height of the building would vary based on whether it's a flat roof building or a pitched roof building. So that could change by, I'm going to say, 10 to 15 feet, depending on how steep we would want to do that, the pitched roof. But approximately 80 feet is the approximate height of the building.
And when you say 80, you're thinking with the 2 levels of parking, correct?
That with 2 levels of parking and 4 levels of residential. So I don't want to sound like a shell game, but option 4 is 1 level of parking and 3 levels of residential. Generally, for us, the parking to apartment or parking to residential units work. You can say generally 3 levels of residential works with 1 level of parking. So that 1 level of parking, we would not be allowing other people to be parking in that parking garage other than those 3 levels. So option 4, you lose 1 level of residence and you lose 1 level of parking. Now keep in mind that not only do you lose height when you lose 1 level of residence, you also lose quite a bit of tax increment generation. So although you're saving costs on not building the garage, you've just now taken a 25% whack at the TIF generation.
I appreciate it. Understood. Thank you. I have no further questions right now.
Alderwoman Bassi?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Just for my own clarification, so you're looking at a total of 6 floors, basically. Is that correct?
From the easterly elevation, when you look at the building, you would have 6 levels. If you looked at it from the west side, because of the sloping of the site, you're probably going to be seeing 4.5 to 5 levels on that side of the building. So 6 to 4.5. I'm going to call it 4.5 on that west side.
Okay, so none of the garages are underground. They're all street level.
That's correct. And part of the issue where we do many of our buildings we've done at other locations, we are able to get down underground. Disadvantage on this site is you can see the site is very narrow in an east to west direction. You need, it's about a 10% slope to get a car to come down the ramp. So based on getting down, you need a run distance. By the time you had this run distance to get down 1 floor, you'd be on the west wall of the garage and you couldn't park anywhere. Another disadvantage is sometimes we put maybe half of the ramp on the outside where you come down the ramp, get to the garage door, and then continue down and in. Unfortunately, when you look at this site and how tight the building is to Green Street, we don't have any run distance outside the garage. So we're really limited to, we can't get down into the basement to bring the building down one level. Unfortunately, it's just how tight the site is.
Okay, I just have a few more real quick questions. You had said these would be rental properties. Is there any thought of having them as owners?
So the owner occupied, I'll also throw the word in there as condo.
Right.
So to us, we have built condominium buildings. We have built apartments. Currently, with the way the financing is available, it is almost impossible unless you're in the inner city to finance condominium buildings. After the Dodd-Frank regulations came out, due to the real estate market collapse, there was a lot of change in bank financing requirements of condominium buildings because there was buildings that were financed they didn't have enough units sold but were under construction. So banks are now under regulations where it's between 50% to 70% of the units have to be contracted before a bank can loan you money to start construction. In this case, we have 88 units. If the number was 50%, I would have to find 44 owners that are willing to sign a contract, give me a down payment, and I would then tell them, great, you're number 10 out of 44, I need 34 more, I'm going to hold your check. Once I get to 44, I can then go start construction, and construction will take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. We've been there. Nobody wants to give you a down payment and know that they're going to get in a condo 2, 3, 4 years from now. So, however, being in the home selling and condo selling business, we build these apartments to what we call a condo standard, and they're individually metered, so that in the event that the market shifts, we could consider selling the units as condos once built. That has been a practice that we've done in the past on, I'll say, both directions. We had a project in Geneva, our River North development, where one of our buildings, we had it under construction. This was pre-Dodd-Frank changes in regulation. Building was under construction. The buyer's market for condos kind of dried up. We ended up retaining owners of roughly half of the units in that particular case. We then rented those units out and rented them out with options to buy, where years later, eventually 12 went down to 10, went down to 6, and at this point in time, we don't own any units any longer in that building. That the ones that we were renting, in essence, became all sold units. So it could work similar in this case. Let's assume that the condo market is hot and there's not that financing regulation, that we could then potentially sell these, but they're all built to a condo standard that could be either rented or sold.
And I just have one last question. Rent, what would the range be roughly?
The rent is, and I want to say, I think we are to perform it at, Jeff? I believe it's I want to say $1.85 a square foot. So if you said roughly 1,000 square foot unit, for ease of math, 1,000 times $1.85 gives you $18.50 per month.
And is that for the studio, one bedroom, or
That's,
two bedroom?
I'm going to say that's for about the 2-bedroom unit.
$1,800 a month.
$18.50.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And if you want the exact numbers, I can get those back to you. But I'm going to say that's ballpark going from memory. I didn't bring those rental rates that we perform it at.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions.
Alderman McClatchy?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. As of right now, who owns that property?
We are a contract purchaser. So right now it is owned by a trust that Ned Newman is the trustee of, but we are under contract and we're contract purchaser of it.
So you're not going to buy it till...
He cannot sell it to anybody else. We have a right for a certain period of time to close on the transaction to acquire the property.
Okay. One last thing. How much of this parking is going to be public?
So what we are proposing is that both levels would be public parking. This would be a public parking deck. This has been successful for us down in Oswego. We have a 2-level parking deck with 4 levels of residential above it. What we propose is the parking during the day, and I'm going to say generally during the day. I'll give you a description of what nighttime is. Public parking during the day, free parking. You can park there anytime you want during the day for free. In the nighttime, such as from the hours of 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning, the parking garage, again, still public, but those that wanted to park in the building would need to come down to City Hall and get a permit. Permits would be sold by the city and suggest whether they're done every 3-month or 6-month increments. Those permits would then be sold to tenants within a certain radius or perimeter of this building, i.e., if it was suggested that the River Place residents were allotted 10 parking spaces or make up some number, that they too could buy permits and park in this garage. The permit price generally is, I'm going to say, somewhere between the range of $50 to $100 per month per parking space, and we would encourage you no apartment, or whether it's in our building or some other building, could have any more than 2 parking spaces. So some guidelines like that, but generally it's a public parking garage.
Dave, wasn't it about 75 spots that was set aside for public outside of the residential? Is it roughly 75? Is that?
So our plan is no reservation of any parking spaces, and it's totally all public parking. So handicap spaces would have to be identified or reserved, but we firmly believe in not reserving parking spaces. Mm-hmm. The idea being is that residents leave during the day, their spaces can now be used by commercial users that are anywhere within Green Street. Restricting those spaces, now all of a sudden you can't reuse that parking space. So all public parking and, in essence, shared parking spaces.
Alderman Glenn?
Yeah, so on this garage, then, basically, who owns the garage?
What we would propose doing as part of the TIF and in the redevelopment agreement, again, using what we've done in other communities, we build the garage, we build the apartments, we sell the garage back to the city for $10.
And then we become liable for the entire parking area as far as maintenance and everything else.
Correct, and including patrolling it to make sure that permit parkers are there in the evening, and you're enforcing that parking requirement and collecting the revenue from the permits to help pay for the maintenance on the garage, as well as any ticket fees that are generated from illegal parkers in the garage.
On another note, it was brought up as far as apartments versus condos, and you say you build them as condos to some extent.
Yes.
So are you talking about individual meters, water meters,
everything's
individually hooked up, or?
Individual electric meter, individual gas meter, when the gas company will allow the individual gas units to be gas metered. Typically, water is such a small portion of someone's monthly bill, we don't individually water, whether it's a commercial user or a residential user. So it's one water meter for the entire building, but then prorated based on the unit that you would get. And that's typical in both a condo scenario as well as our commercial users and commercial buildings.
I know some condos that, they have one meter for numerous amount. But you know that our debt service is set up as far as each individual unit, no matter how many are on that meter, each unit has to pay their share of that.
Correct. Yep.
Those fees. So if you were to take these apartments and you decided to change them to condos, what would be left to do to change them over to condos? Other than changing the PIN numbers, of course, you'd have to create PIN numbers.
Yeah, so I'll say there's a condo plat, very similar to a plat of subdivision where you're creating lots.
I'm aware of that, yes.
Okay, so in essence, we will create a condo plat to begin with, but what we will do is, let's assume that the first 2 levels not including the commercial, that would either be 1 or 2 condo units, that's the parking garages. Then the upper portion, the residential portion, may be 1 condo itself, or maybe it's 4 condos, each one being a floor, and then the commercial portion of the building would be a separate condo. So off the get-go, it would be a condoed building, but I think the intent of the question about the condo was more about a for-sale unit, and I didn't want to mislead you, but it would be a condo. The condo unit number of the parking garage, that portion, again, would be sold back to the city. The commercial space would be a condo unit itself. That could either be retained by the developer or that could be sold to a third party.
Thank
Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Alderwoman Miller?
Thank you. I'm very concerned about the parking, Dave, and I'm sure you expected that out of me. 88 residential units, even if there's a person and a half in there or 2 people in it, you're at 132 cars or 132 potential cars at 157 units. That, easy math, that leaves, let's call it 25 left. If we know that the River Place residents might need those because they already use them, you're at 0. I have no experience with what you're proposing. It's all open parking, nobody gets a reserved spot. People come and go, they got to get permits if they're going to be overnight. I have no idea how that works.
So in our current buildings, we plan for 1.0 on the inside of our buildings to parking spaces per apartment. It's not per bedroom, that's per apartment. And then we, in addition to that, we plan for 0.25 on the outside. So in essence, that's a 1.25 cars per apartment, regardless if it's studio, 1 or 2 bedroom. That number will change also based on time of year for a resident and whether they're paying for a permit to park there or not. And the tendency is that when they're paying for a parking permit, somehow they don't necessarily need that car when they're spending the $75 a month, say, to park it, and the number shrinks below the 1.25. We are perfectly comfortable with the parking numbers. If there's nowhere to, if there would be a parking problem, we wouldn't be able to rent or sell the residential units. So we are confident with the parking numbers that are here, as long as someone during discussions doesn't come back and say, well, we need 50 or 75 or 100 of them need to go for River Place. So as long as there's a generally agreeable number that could end up going to the residents at River Place. Commercial-wise, we have no concern during the day about commercial users. If that gives you any voice of confidence, you won't be hearing from us about a parking problem when we have designed and built the building.
So, if I may, so at your 1.25 with 88 units, that's 110.
Correct.
That leaves me 47 open units out of your 157 proposed. So, and just to tell you where my brain's at, I don't see this going anywhere without 2 levels of parking, because you have 88 units, and even if you take it to 66 units, you're then at 75 parking spots. You're allocating 1 1/4 at 66. You've used them all. And
Yep.
I get it that you don't think these people park there all day, that they go somewhere
Yep.
and then they don't. But I'm going to challenge that, because I've witnessed what goes on across the street, and out of 27 units over there, they have, I believe, 16 garages and 14 surface parking, 30, and they spill over to your now unused lot. And they're there a lot.
So a couple of questions. I don't have any relation to that
Yeah,
building.
I
and
get it, but let me finish for just
Okay.
a second. So my concern is you now have 110 cars from your 88 residential units that need to come home and park. And we're using this as public parking. You're adding a commercial building, a restaurant, which we hope is super successful, because that's what we want the Riverwalk to be. We have commercial enterprise across the street that currently has 0 parking, other than the 8 or 9 slots along Green Street. There's no parking, maybe 3 slots on Waukegan on the back side, and they have to cross Boone Creek to get to any public parking to the north. I'm concerned about parking, and I haven't seen any potential thoughts for other parking opportunities, but if we're trying to create a walkable district, this parking, to me, being an open parking, may or may not work for those residents. So I guess I just don't see how you think, and I'm just
So
trying to
the first-
understand your process.
Yep. So the first question I think you need to answer is, how many spaces do you want, or how many permits do you want to allow the residents of River Place or any other surrounding building that it may want to use this garage? How many does the council want to allow or permit to use this parking garage? And I know you say there's 16 or 14 or 16 parking garages in the other building. I first raised the question, are those being used for parking cars, or are they being used for storage? And so now that the car that should be in one of those spaces is not in one of those spaces. But ultimately, if council or staff could give a commitment to the number of spaces that you want the outside users, then I could compare that with what we feel comfortable with on the number of spaces that would remain.
I'm
So-
more concerned with the 88 residential units that you're constructing and the 110 cars that come home and may or may not have a space based on the fact that it's public parking, and somebody that's walking Green Street or somebody that's at Buddy Z's is parked there, and now I'm coming home at 5 o'clock, if that's the potential resident you have, I'm circling floor 1, 0, circling floor 2, 0, now where do I go? So in my brain, I'm thinking you have 110 spaces for your residents that you're going to have to reserve.
And in your brain or your thought logic is that tenant says, I'm fed up, I'm not going to live there, I'm not going to rent the apartment, the apartment's vacant. And
I'm not
I'm
saying
the
that that's what's going to happen,
and I'm the property owner,
right?
and it's my revenue that it's hit me in my back pocket. And I can stand here and tell you today, from our experience, I have no problem accepting that risk. And the people won't be coming to you and asking, Sue, would you please find me a parking space? As long as there are some of the other, as I said, guidelines set out, no reservation on parking spaces, and we know the number that are going to come from neighboring and abutting properties for the overnight. Commercial all day long, there's no concern whatsoever. Somebody wants to visit this restaurant, they circle deck 1, they circle deck 2, can't find a parking space, so be it, they can't.
Where is the entrance to the restaurant?
So the entrance, if you see on floor or on the lower garage,
Yeah.
and if you if you were standing at the front door of the residence, which is the darkened red triangle, immediately to the right, do you see there's kind of a grassed area, and then there's a pavement up against the edge of the building?
Mm-hmm.
That is generally the entrance to the restaurant
So
or commercial
in
space.
front of, just west of the 4 diagonal parkings?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
The other option is you send staff and the developer back to look at a couple things. One, start eliminating apartments. Just caution you, when you eliminate apartments, we're going to be taking deductions from the TIF that's going to be generated to help pay for this garage, or get so perhaps the purse has an abundance of money. Dave, can you figure out a way to put 3 levels of parking on this site?
I would love that.
And then just make sure the purse is full.
I get it.
Okay.
I love and I know we need those 88 residential units. I know it. We're creating an amazing downtown area that people want to live there. They want to live downtown so that they can walk and live and play and enjoy all the efforts that we've put forth. We need that. But they also have cars, because they still need to go to a grocery store. They still need to go to work. You will be attracting people that are still working. So I just, having lived through the River Place process and the parking nightmare over there, it's my first concern. I need those 88 units. We need them. So I love that. And we'll deal with the 6 stories. Do we have a fire truck that'll go up 6 stories?
So, I didn't want to jump in. 80 feet is kind of the max that we can go with the current fire truck that the fire district has. So unless we add another $2 to $4 million on top of this to purchase another ladder truck, there you go, Chief, they don't make them any bigger. So, but, the fire department would not be in support of a building probably over the height that we're currently being presented to us. So adding a third, it's just, that's out of the question. And not only that, the cost of that building, when you add a third concrete parking structure, it's...
And I was being facetious.
No, I know you
about
weren't.
a third floor parking.
I know you were. But the other thing that I wanted to say, too, is like we're kind of getting into the weeds here a little bit. And this is all great conversation, but if council is on the same page and council says, hey, yeah, we want that second deck of parking and we need that second deck of parking, now we got to come up with $2 million outside of the TIF. So if that's what council wants, then staff, you can direct us as staff to go back and try and find find that money, right? And there's different ways that we can do that. We can work with SB Friedman, but that's going to be a difficult task. You're either dipping into your reserve funds, you're creating some sort of taxing district in the downtown area, but those are avenues that we have to explore as staff. We have not done that yet because this is just conceptual. But if we're saying that we want that second deck of flooring, it's late. We want that second deck of parking, then just tell us that, and then we'll get to the drawing board and try and figure out where we can find those funds. At the end of the day, if we can't find the funding, we're going back to 1, because that $2 million ask is gone with 1 deck of parking.
And 1 deck of parking is 78 spots.
Well, right, it will work for, and you're reducing from 88 to 66. 66, so I will tell you that, we go over this parking discussion every time we have an apartment complex come before us. Authentics, Fox Meadows, they're always in that 1 to 1.2 range, and I've never had an issue with parking. So, I don't anticipate there being a parking issue in this the way it's set up now, especially with Dave being on the hook for it. Like he said, if he doesn't have people renting his properties because there's a parking issue, that's his issue. That's his fault. He's going to lose the money. Now, granted, I agree that we need to find spaces for our downtown businesses that we're short, and this has always been a problem. But So, again, if you guys want us to explore the options to find that $2 million, just say the words, and we'll get to work.
And if I can add one more item to Ross's comment there, we have not run the pro forma on one level of parking and 3 residential units, or 3 floors of residential units. So in essence, if I go from 88 to 66, I've been taking a 25% hit on the TIF generation. So I'm going to lose somewhere between $1 million to $2 million on the TIF revenue. That may, in itself, come back and say, I can't build 3 on top of 1. I don't generate enough increment. And I may, as much as you say, want the 3 and the 1, it may, I don't know, it may not perform out. But again, we need some direction on what you're looking for this, I would say, staff and this developer in this partnership to, how do you want us to proceed forward? We're all in it together. I can only lay it out for you, the problems and the challenges that we have and what the realities are, and I want to believe that the SB Friedman analysis of what Shodine put together is probably, generally acceptable. Otherwise, I think I would have heard from staff, hit the road, your numbers don't work.
Alderman Strack, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Dave, just a real quick question. You made a comment about the Oswego development that you have. So in that particular development, is it the same style of layout with commercial space adjacent, using that parking during the day? I'm just wondering how similar these two developments would be, and if you could just expand on that a little bit.
Sure. There's two different buildings in the Oswego development. One of the buildings has 0 commercial. The other building has it is 15,000 square feet of commercial. It's 176 apartment units of studios 1s and 2s. So I would say that proportionately 15,000 to 176 is probably not too far off the 3,000 to 88. So it is, I would say, very consistent.
Thank you. If I can continue. So, along with Alderwoman Miller, I was concerned about the math in the beginning. I didn't know what River Place's usage was of those spaces in the current lot now. I think there's still a little hesitation in that for me. I think it's still a tight number for parking and for additional parking for the public. I think I'm more comfortable hearing how many units are in that building now and how many spaces are being utilized. I don't love it, but I mean, I think if truly, how many developments, Dave, do you have at that ratio now, at a 1 to 1.25?
I'm going to say 700, 800 apartments under rent between Geneva, Oswego, and St. Charles, and those communities.
And just for reference, how long have you owned those? I mean, how long has those developments been active?
So those developments, I would say, are all in the last 12 years. Prior to that, those are, I would say, our newer developments. We had close to 900 apartment units that stem back to were built in the 1970s. That I'm going to say in the last 15 to 20 years we had sold those, so we had owned them for 30 plus years and had studied the parking demand and ratios. I don't know how other managers manage their buildings, but if you come to rent from us, we're going to want to know how many people live in your household. We're going to want to know the number of animals. and we're going to want to know the number of cars and the license plate numbers and the registrations on those vehicles. So we try to gather a lot of data, and we're going to watch your car and watch other cars that may be parking there that shouldn't be there. So that's why I can stand here. Sue, you're not scaring me one bit, and but I get your fear. But the data for us proves itself. There's little things that we haven't talked about. No apartment building is 100% occupied. And we shoot for 94 to 95%. We're heroes if we're getting that. So now all of a sudden it's 5%. Do you take a 5% reduction in parking spaces? People are gone on vacation, so all sorts of things can happen like that to trim the number ever so slightly. But the parking spaces are $40,000 a piece. It's a big number. So I hopefully that answers your question with the history of where we get our data from and where we're currently operating.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, comments by council? Chief, go ahead.
Not to muddy the waters, I just wanted to, as a refresher, the broader conversation of parking in the downtown area has been a topic for council for at least 4 years now. Our most recent study, which are just basic studies that we've done for councils, was January of last year, and it took a look at nighttime parking only. 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. was our target range because that was the complaint where we were most occupied. And so we had multiple, we do a 14-day study. We did it in January of 2023. That's the last time we did it. And we look at all of our parking locations. We do not have figured in the funeral home that was just done, but generally the Green Street, Court Street, on-street parking general area was 343 parking spots, and we had multiple times, days in that 14-day period where we were in excess of 100% capacity, which means we had people double parking, things like that. So keeping that in mind, as your downtown foot traffic grows, and I don't know what that development looks like for all those other properties that the city owns and is looking to do something with, if you take away from that 343 spots, you are going to have an additional parking problem if you have the same amount of foot traffic. And this was January traffic, not June or July traffic as well. So that's all.
Thank you, Chief.
If I could just respond to the Chief, that data has been shared with us, and when we're working on those other developments on the other areas, we are taking into account or trying to incorporate those numbers so it won't be the last discussion that we have on parking. And it amazes me in 30 years of doing this business that what generates planning of these is parking. And I know Susan and the mayor have heard it from me before, and I believe that in my lifetime that we're going to start converting parking garages to some other uses because we won't need spots to park all of our cars, and we're going to go to our smartphone and we're going to hit an app that says my car is going to come from, it's sitting at home somewhere and it's going to come and pick me up, and I'm going to jump in the car and it's going to take me home. So
if I could just
someday
add too real quick, as we develop our downtown, we're creating this district, and our ideas are to draw more people to our downtown. So although we know what we have today and we know what's being used, if we're successful in creating a downtown that becomes an entertainment district or whatever we want it to be, we're drawing more people, right? So you're no different than Geneva, you're no different than Naperville. People will find a place to park. They will eventually find a place to park to get to the destination that they're going. That's just the nature of the game. Every downtown has this problem.
Yep.
And it's a great problem to have. That means you're successful.
Alderwoman Miller?
I just want to be clear that
do I have enough parking?
I want this to be a success. This is our dream, to create a successful mixed-use building that is new, exciting, and is the place everybody wants to be. I just want to make sure we do it right the first time, because as you said, River Place failed to provide adequate parking. I trust you. I want this to be a success. It's going to be gorgeous, whatever it is, when we get that far. But in the meantime, I want us to do all the thought we have to do on the front end so that we're not scrambling on the back end.
I appreciate that.
And I want to reassure you that that's my thought. And I hear every time I'm on Green Street with a name badge on, we don't have enough parking. And people don't say we don't have enough living space. They say we don't have enough parking. And you can ask any older person here, and they have those same conversations. So it's my responsibility to put that onus on all of us, that we have to make sure our residents, our constituents, our business owners, our people coming to enjoy our moment is convenient, because there's other communities that they can go to. And I want them to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Santee, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Real quick, you mentioned River North in Geneva. Is that off of River Lane?
It is,
Okay.
yes.
I just want a reference, I'm sorry, but...
It's 100 North River Lane and 200 North River
okay,
Lane.
got it. Know it. And then the Oswego location, the names?
It's Reserve at Hudson Crossing,
Okay.
and that is on Washington, and it abuts Hudson, it abuts Hudson Park on Washington.
Okay. Just because I'm in that area and I'm going to take a look.
So it's right at the, if you know where Village Hall is at?
Yes.
So if you, from Village Hall, went, I'm going to call it east, across the river.
Yeah.
And it's the first building on your left-hand side.
Okay. And something that Director Palarecki brought up about, maybe we're kind of going out in the weeds here a little bit. I guess my question to you and question to staff is, okay, do we look at the two-level parking, give them the information to say, let's look at that two-level parking and the 80 height and work our way back if we have to, or do we start at the one level, 3 floors? I mean,
yeah, I think you need to look at the two-level first,
Okay.
and then identify, and so, we will identify what we can to fund. Yeah, to fund that $2 million. That's the biggest thing here, right? Where are we gonna find that $2 million? So, we have to go out and identify funding sources for that. We will bring those back to you and present that. In the meantime, we'll keep in touch with Dave on where we're at with that, and maybe if things aren't looking good, we'll say, Dave, you know what, send your pro forma for one level of parking off to SB Friedman so that we're ahead of the game, and, we'll just have to internally, as staff, but we'll keep you guys informed.
Sure, well, that's my direction, or if that's...
Okay, that's perfect. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so can we get a straw poll of who's in favor of going ahead and figuring out the parking situation for 2 stories? And then come back. It's 2, 3.
But there's a lot to chew on.
Well, you're not really making any decisions tonight, Alderman
We have to
McClatchy.
start
It's
somewhere.
just like this. Yeah, this is a very big project. We have to vet all of this. So it may work, it may not work. I mean, that's the bottom line, and Dave even knows that. So it's not like we're guaranteeing anything tonight.
So we got 3 right now. Alderman Cook?
Sure.
Alderman Bassey?
Oh, sure.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we have the majority to go ahead and move forward with the 2-story parking, and staff will go ahead and do their due diligence, and along with Dave, and work with Dave on that part. The redevelopment agreement.
All right, so at the end of the agenda supplement, there was a brief explanation of the RETIF, which you heard from SB Friedman this evening. If this project does move forward and we find some funding, we will need to RETIF that parcel. That is a $30,000 price tag to RETIF that through SB Friedman. It's a 6-month process. You heard that. Are there any council members that are against? Because that would if we can't RETIF the project, it kills the project. So I just need to make certain that you guys are aware that we'd be removing that property from the TIF. and then re-TIFing it for an additional 23 years. We're not signing a contract today. That'll be built into the development agreement, with Shodine, but, I want to make sure that everybody's on board with that process.
Along with that, I'll also state that I've met with the taxing, at least 4 taxing bodies, and we will be meeting with the taxing bodies in an ad hoc. Actually, Suzanne will be joining us on the first one in, I think, a week or so. Kind of give them some insight on this development, but there was favor of that, and they would actually look to speak at a city council meeting in favor of removing this from the TIF and re-TIFing it. And that's our goal, is to work with those taxing bodies and get their full support as well. So we'll work with the taxing bodies to get that done as well. Good?
I would think that we would be moving forward faster on the Friedman agreement, because we're going to have to TIF this whether he's standing in front of us or not.
Well, so you don't want to do it too early, and then you're losing years as well.
I understand, but the redevelopment agreement, we're not going to be ready on that anytime soon, right? Because we don't even know the 2-level versus 1-level thing.
Correct. I would encourage you to move along with the, because it's a 6-month process, nothing against
We can always move
Jeff
the trigger date of the TIF if
Correct.
we need to forward, but at least get the procedure out of the way. And I'm not saying tomorrow, but I think they're moving at 2 different paces. The redevelopment agreement,
That's why you get paid the big bucks, David.
you can put all this off, it's just going to take longer. That's
Well,
all.
I mean,
Costs are going up.
So,
not going down.
if things played out right, your construction at the earliest would be spring of 2025, right? You still have, that would be the earliest.
Well, rather than diving into the schedule, I guess several concerns I have is, one, I've heard about, okay, go find $2 million. What I didn't hear, and nothing against staff, is we'll let you know tomorrow whether we found it or not, or is it we'll let you know in 90 or 120 days whether we found a source. So I think I'd like to get kind of a window as to when is the decision called that we either found it or we didn't find it. And again, not trying to put pressure on staff, but that's the question. Then at the same time, we know that we have, we're going to eventually talk about Commonwealth Edison. Commonwealth Edison does not work extremely fast, nothing against Commonwealth Edison, but I think we need to be moving that along, because that not only affects this project, but other projects, as well as affecting the Riverwalk. So I guess and at the same time, question was raised about who's the owner. I have a contract, but I don't know my dates of when my contract expires, and will I get an extension on that contract? I don't know. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but I think the moving pieces need to be worked on simultaneously and not one after the other. So I would encourage you to let's be working on all of these, the DTIF and re-TIFing, the Commonwealth Edison, and looking for $2 million.
Well, I guess that's up to council. If you read the packet and saw the contract, and you'd like us to bring that forward sooner than later, we can bring that forward for a vote.
Alderman Strack?
2 quick questions. Director Wirch, we haven't heard about the sewer issue as well. What kind of timing are we talking about at moving that?
I mean, again, I guess it all kind of depends on when this moves forward. I mean, that project, to move it, my rough estimate's probably $150,000, it's probably 2-week job.
Okay, so not detrimental timing-wise.
It's not substantial. It's moving about 350 feet of sanitary main.
David, you just mentioned we could move the start of the TIF date. So we can...
Hey,
Jeff, can you verify that for us? If we started to move paperwork forward on the TIF and needed to push the TIF start date forward, is that available to do as we look forward in this process?
I guess I'm not sure I understand the question. But we can start to work whenever you
Right, but we don't
approve.
want to trigger the TIF to begin if he's not ready to complete.
Oh, I see.
There's a big gap there.
Yeah, so we start our work. There's a, we can, it's not a very satisfying answer. We do the normal thing we do is we do our work, in 6 months you approve it. Once we finish a report and we drop it on the clerk's desk, there are dates you have to move things, there's a window in which you have to move, and if you don't move it, it dies,
Right.
essentially. So it can't sit forever. So call it 9 months from our start date. You start to get to the point where our homework dies. It needs to be refreshed. It's not dead. It's old. So that's
Sure.
not the end of the world. But you don't want to approve the TIF if you don't have a project queued up or teed up or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's not a total wash, but it's not great. So usually we do what is being discussed here is you're moving all facets at the same time. You can't approve a redevelopment agreement until the TIF's in place. So the date of
all
your
gotta go.
adoption of an RDA is no sooner than the date you approve the TIF. So you have to be, give or take, 6 months from today. That's the fastest you can have a deal, as they say. So there's an argument there.
Got it, thank you.
All right. Alderman Miller?
So I agree with Dave that I think we have a lot of moving parts and they need to start all moving. The intention of the owner is to redevelop this property. So whether or not this process works, somebody's going to want to redevelop that. So again, I think untiffing, retiffing, detiffing, getting this in the right place at the right time is critical. So I think we need to start that ball rolling.
Okay. Any others in favor of that? Alderman Strag? Alderman Cook?
Get on it.
All right. Alderman Bassi?
Go for it.
Alderman Glab? Why he's thinking Alderman McClatchy?
You know, I made if you remember, I made the statement 2 meetings ago that I'm not approving any more apartments. I want to see condos.
Okay.
And that's my big issue, more so than anything else. This project, though, I can tell you right now, isn't going anywhere without 2 levels of parking. It just isn't feasible with only one. Doesn't make any sense. But like I say, I'd like to see the condos, and that's we've just gone bonkers as far as what we've approved in rentals. We've probably added 80% in the last 3 years as far as rental units in this town. Absolutely. Just with when we had 1,800 2.5 years ago. I mean, we just approved 540 with the Kunets a couple months back, so more than a couple months, but you know what I'm saying. And like I said, I just can't see going with more apartments. I want to see condos. Thank you.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yeah, I'm for getting the ball rolling. I'm just a little concerned. We've got a handshake agreement with these people, and now this is coming up on us. There's just a lot of things going on here.
Well, I mean, we got to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
that's where we're at. I mean, it's a process. We understand that. I mean, we've been in 4 years. We've been working together. I want to say. Oh, it feels like 4. Feels like 4. I'm not gonna lie. Not that it's bad. I'm just saying. So I mean, we have to start somewhere, and obviously we can't go any further until council gets on our, with us on this as a partnership with Shodine, to move forward. Obviously, with the re-tiffing, you're looking at $30,000 roughly, and then with ComEd, you're looking at $30,000 in engineering. So at this point, we would be spending, if those are approved, $60,000 to move forward, which really both of them need to be done either way, whether it's Shodine or not. Right? So that's where we're at. So we're not asking you for the $2 million. We need to obviously find that. Carolyn needs to find that. So, all right. So you're yes, move forward with that part. Okay. Alderman Santee.
Yes, get the ball rolling.
Okay. All right, so we're good on that part. Let's see, relocation. Steve, if you could go ahead and get some more adequate pricing on the sewer and all that, so we can get that for council as well. And then, I think that's it, right? As of right now, I mean, obviously we have the ComEd next.
We have ComEd coming up. The only other one I would, maybe Bill, you could chime in on the Riverwalk design coordination and what, I don't know what kind of time frame you would need to, are you going to, is there a committee that you take that to? Is there a redesign that's going to be done, or is the design that you have, is that the one that's going to move forward? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but trying to get an idea of, last thing I'd like to find out is 3 months from now, we hear that we got to start a whole design charrette process on a Riverwalk for this building. So,
No, I mean, I actually think that that's probably the easier one, only in terms of we're going to work with you. I think that's the best thing we've done all the way along the Riverwalk, is working with the landowners, like what works for you and how do we incorporate our walk into what works for you. And so especially as we move past that outdoor cafe area, it's going to be rather simplistic. And then obviously the next portion is a little bit more of a discussion, but the next portion is basically already designed in concept. It will be just doing the engineering. We've been able to work through engineering on our last 2 phases within a year, and this is much less than that, especially for the portion that directly affects you.
So you don't feel that you need to start anything with Riverwalk now or in the next 90 days?
I don't until we see exactly how you intend to use the space.
Okay.
And once we have a final design from you, we'll work complementary with what you're doing.
Okay.
And then that would be included in the redevelopment agreement, because now we know what the TIF funding is, because we did the TIF, and we need easements, one way or the other. Right. You know, that all has to be nailed down in that agreement.
I would agree.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Next item on the agenda is 7A, is a ComEd engineering agreement. I'm looking for a motion to approve the execution of a contract pending attorney review with ComEd in the amount of $30,000.01, and approve a budget amendment in the amount of $30,000.01. I'm looking for a motion to approve. Alderman Cook?
I approve.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Santee?
I'll second what I believe is a motion.
Okay. Discussion by City Council? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Just one quick question. Why are we paying for this? How come Shodine's not paying for this?
So, Ross, would you like to hit on this?
Sure, I can answer that question. So, the parcel, basically what has to happen is for the parcels that we own on the other side of the Boone Lagoon, this engineering is from Waukegan all the way to Elm.
Right.
We could ask Shodine, you could absolutely ask Shodine to share some of this cost, but they're just going to build it into their TIF request and ask for it back. So if Shodine walks away, I'm sure that if we ask them for money, they're going to have us sign some contract that says, if I don't develop this, you're going to reimburse me for this money. That's typically how it works. Again, you could ask for it if you want, but we will only benefit from burying these because of the development that we hopefully will get on the north side of the Boone Lagoon. These lines service North Richmond Road.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it just seems like they're not throwing any skin in the game. Somebody brought this up a couple weeks ago.
Right. Well, you're absolutely. I mean,
it seems like that.
This is on you guys. I mean, it's on council. If you want to ask for that,
okay.
So more than welcome to do that.
Dave,
I mean,
you want to go ahead?
Alderman, I would beg to differ with you with the skin in the game. We have there's large amount of costs that you have not seen that we are incurring. You saw some architectural plans presented today, Plan 6. Obviously, I paid for 6 plans, paid for surveying costs, paid for environmental costs. there's asbestos inspection, there's a whole array of, just on this site alone, that we're incurring costs. Costs that if we don't redevelop, that they are sunk costs. I think that I have been rather open with city staff as what costs the developer should be paying for and what costs city should be paying for in this partnership. And I think it's been fair and reasonable to date, and I think Ross has described some of the justification of why you would pay for these costs. But I understand if you want to ask for it. I heard you make a comment earlier, and I wasn't quite sure about that comment, and you made some comment about a handshake deal, and if that referred to the city and Chodine, a handshake deal, actually on this piece of property, correct me if I'm wrong here, that there is no agreement on this parcel. We only have an agreement on the other two parcels. So, hate to say it, but I could be walking down the street working on this parcel with you with my pants down, because I don't even have a handshake agreement. So, but I believe that the spirit of any of the agreements is that we are here as a partner, said that from day one. We want to work jointly together to make a project successful, and we're going to do our utmost to bring our professional experience, whether that you like those facts that we present to you or not, and hopefully you'll see that as great value between a public and private partnership, but we all need to share in costs and trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Thanks, Dave. Alderman Santee? Okay. All right. Alderman Glab?
Yeah. Now, this $30,000, is this to bury the cables? It's just engineering only?
Correct. Just engineering.
Do we have any idea what it's going to cost us to bury it?
No.
I do not have those numbers.
No idea. Okay.
Now, there is portions where we could do a certain portion at a time. So we could do just a portion of their site. Mm-hmm. We could go past the creek. We could go towards Green Pea Pod and stop there. Like, there is sections.
There's phasing opportunities, correct.
Opportunities, but no numbers has brought to us.
Alderman, in our discussions, and I have been meeting with ComEd and have tried to play the ComEd, get the best people to the site that we can, and our experience from working with ComEd. And really, this engineering is the first step before they can even estimate any of the costs. They have to first figure out what is the project, and so that's where this initial money is. They do the initial preliminary engineering. They can then get some budget pricing to us. Then from there, we can then start to slice up the entire loaf to see how we want to incrementally move through the project. And I stress we, meaning the developer and the city jointly together.
Same situation on Riverside Drive. Right. So, that we did.
But I don't know, I've got a little bit of reservations as far as the fact that we're talking about voting for this and spending $30,000, and according to this, customer's responsibility to contact the other companies to relocate and removal of their equipment from the poles, and then charge us. We're the customer, so I'm sure that's what they're talking about. So besides the costs that we would incur from ComEd, then we're talking, what, other companies that are on the ComEd poles?
Correct.
That's a deal between them and ComEd. I mean,
well, in order to bury the lines, you have to address all of those services that are out there that are supplied other business. No different than what we had to do on Riverside Drive.
do we know what we got to bury
We
other than ComEd?
Oh, you're talking about,
Other utilities.
correct,
All the other.
correct, yeah, Comcast and,
Mhm.
Comcast is the only thing that's out there.
Right.
And there was some, we believe AT&T. But unsure,
Correct.
because of the bank had so many lines, phone lines coming into the bank, that a lot of that infrastructure could be not needed any longer.
Mhm. Yeah, again, I think we're, I guess we have to move forward, but, we're moving forward, kind of blindly. We really are. I mean, 'cause
Which is part of the process, unfortunately.
I understand, but we're also looking at how much is this gonna cost us. We're looking at a river walk, we're going to drain the TIF for the next 2 years with a river walk if we move forward. And where are we gonna get the money for this? General fund? Because we won't have the money in the TIF unless we're gonna wait, bond it out or something and pay it off in another 3 or 4 years?
Until we get numbers, we...
Exactly, but where are we gonna get all this money? And then we're talking $2 million for a garage. Come on, guys. Come on.
Why increase it?
Everybody wake up, okay? This isn't pie in the sky. We don't have all this kind of money unless we start taking out of the general fund, and we can't afford to start taking out of the general fund. I think we really, really have to look at this in an expeditious way, time frame, not just what he wants to develop, but where are we gonna get all these costs from? What are the possibilities, and how are we gonna finance all this? Because that's what we need to do.
Right, but that's what we just asked you tonight to direct us to do, is to go out and get those numbers and find alternative means of funding. So now that you've done that, that's what staff is going to do.
Okay.
So
So
we will come back to you with an
Then let's
answer.
do
and-
that before we even talk about this $30,000.
Okay.
Maybe we need to look at the whole picture rather than a little at a time.
Okay. Any other questions and comments by council? Any public comment regarding this item? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Pass.
No?
Yes or no?
Pass.
Pass.
Alderman McClatchy?
No.
Alderwoman Bassey?
No.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
What's that for? He goes with the majority.
But we,
No,
what's the numbers? Glad needs to...
No, he's not ready to vote,
finish.
so he passes, that's what it means.
Just give me the numbers on that
If
vote.
Mr. Ricardo
Hold on.
brought, his,
I didn't
Alderman
count
Glab,
them.
hold on,
I
hold
was,
I did.
what's the number?
There's one pass,
Yeah, forget the pass. How many yeses and nos?
2 noes.
I have Alderman Santee, yes. Alderman Glab, pass. Alderman McClatchy, no. Alderwoman Bassey, no. Alderman Strack was
Yes.
yes. Alderman Cook, yes. Alderwoman Miller,
It's passed. It's passed.
so it's passed.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, I didn't know the numbers. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 7B, is Riverwalk Phase 4. Motion to award the bid for the construction of the Riverwalk from the Pearl Street Bridge to the Route 120 Bridge, referred to as Phase 4, to Alliance Contractors in the amount of $1,501,085.60. Director Hobson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I know it's been a long night, so I'll try to keep this brief. There's a lot to unpack, I think, with this agenda supplement as well. Coming off of the successes of Phase 3, we started that, we built that in 2022. We were directed then at that point to then design Phase 4 and can start down the process with that. In conjunction with designing that, John Smith, who's been our Riverwalk Foundation president and liaison, was able to secure easements for Phase 4 based on our negotiations and our talks with them. This all came to a head last November 6th when we were talking about our community investment plan. At that point, we had a engineer's opinion and probable cost of $1.9 million and some change as an estimate for that Phase 4. At that point, City Council had directed us to bid this in 2 manners. One was just for the seawall, to get a real number on what our seawall costs were. There are $200,000 set aside as part of the budget this year for the seawall improvements. In addition, at that meeting, we made the commitment to begin the burial of the power poles or the power lines in that area. That contract is moving forward at this point. The second option for us bidding that, as instructed by City Council, was to bid it as a whole, so that we weren't dealing with engineers' opinion of probable cost and estimates. What was a real number on this particular phase, to be able to try to get this, what I think, and I think John would probably say the same, is probably the trickiest section of the Riverwalk that we've had to deal with to date. There's just a lot going on here, and the encroachment of parking lot and businesses are right up on the Riverwalk. To our surprise, going back to our initial discussion of how I was surprised with Main Street's comment, I was probably even more surprised with what our numbers came back in terms of a bid for the entire project, that being $1.5 million. There were 4 bids received. One of those had a discrepancy in a price, and that had to be thrown out. It was actually removed by the request of the contractor. So that left us with 3 bids, one at 2.5, one at 1.8, and then the low bid from Alliance Contractors at $1.5 million. That's what I have before you. I'm excited to have this before you at that number. I would have never guessed that we'd be anywhere close to this number, $400,000 less than our estimate. I will add that this is the piece that connects all of it together. It's not the last piece. This is the piece that connects us all together. The last piece is in conjunction with Shoding's development. It's the section that goes from Green Street to a pedestrian bridge. But this piece is the piece that allows our pedestrians the connectivity from Weber's Park all the way to Green Street on a continuous walk. It's the piece that has had businesses like Bimble's now thinking about 2 storefronts, a riverfront as well as a street front. It's also a piece that cements our presence on the Fox River. We've talked about that at least 2 strategic plans that I've been a part of cementing our presence on the Fox River. This is the piece that does that for us. You've seen businesses that have made a commitment and put investment into their property, whether it's an outdoor patio or a large pier structure to take advantage of that river traffic. They've made the commitment knowing the direction we're headed, and now it's our opportunity to discuss and potentially make the improvements in the site. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have in conjunction with the supplement.
Thank you, Bill. I'm looking for a motion to approve 7B as presented. Alderman McClatchy.
I will gladly make that motion.
Second, Alderman Santi.
I will second the motion.
Thank you. Discussion by City Council. Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Director, that contractor they did work for us before on the other
Alliance
piece.
Contractors
Yeah.
completed the first phase of the Riverwalk
and they did
for
a
us
good
in
job.
2005. They did an excellent job.
Okay.
Any other questions by City Council? Comments? Alderman Santi.
Is there an expiration date on these bids?
Typically 60 days. I'd have to check the actual bid and see what was included in there. But off the top of my head, I don't know what the expiration date of that bid would be.
It would be 60.
60?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, thank you.
And Alliance did the first phase from basically the Riverwalk building crossing the bridge, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Between the bridge.
they also installed the pedestrian bridge, the new pedestrian bridge.
Okay. And that work was done in '05?
2005, yep.
All right. And the second bid number came in at 1.8.
Yes.
So we had one, and then one was dropped, but, so 2 out of the 3 bids that we could still accept were below our estimation.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Alderman Glenn.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I really wanted to see this Riverwalk go through maybe in another 2 years or so, but the bid's great. We've got so many, how would you put it, easements and everything that we've worked and we've got solid right now, and I think we just need to move forward.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments by council? Open up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a public comment regarding this item? John?
Everything has been said so far, so I don't think I need to say anything. Alliance Contractors, top-notch quality firm in the state. Very large firm, never expected this. Me personally, being a professional engineer and being in the construction business for all my life, I'm thinking $2 to $3 million this thing's coming in at. And the first bid we opened was 1.5. I mean, we will never see that number again. It's amazing. So, we have easements, Dave. I don't know how long those last either.
It's like
Yeah,
a couple
I mean, you know
years.
how, at the easement issue
I didn't know what this was
and
doing.
the ComEd, which, did Dave leave? The ComEd issue was absolutely insane.
That was 2 years ago. That was
Yeah.
huge.
I mean, so if we can approve this, we have done so much work, and we've got such a great number, is all I can say is, you know, thank you for considering it. You guys have been great as far as supporting us in the past, and, thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, I would just want to say, John, with all the work that you put into this thing, I mean, we wouldn't be where we're at without you. So, thank you very much. I remember going through these easements. I know that was not easy, and very frustrating at times, but thank you for all you've done. Go back to council. Any comments, questions? Alderman Santee?
Real quick, there's a couple people sitting in the audience that, let's see, I'm trying to figure out the number here. 22 years, 23 years?
25 years ago.
I mean, that, you know, Mr. Miller's here, Mr. Newman's here. You know, they've dedicated a lot of time and a lot of effort, along with other people, but I appreciate them being in attendance and hanging around. But, you know, they straightened me out back in '05 and '06. They got me to comprehend it because I just did not understand it. And, you know, they kind of brought me along as a young kid, so I appreciate it.
Can I just add one thing? What was the entire evening discussion about? It all centered around the Riverwalk, which was founded as an economic development project, not a park and nothing else. Economic development for the city of McHenry has always been the goal, and the payoff's been huge. So thank you again.
Well, and thank you. And when you look at that section, and I don't know where we're at in regards to, I don't know what our rating is, but I think we're in the top 5 in regards to recreational traffic for boaters in the country. So I think about it where we have these eyeballs that go by us for the last 50 years, and now they see something. It's not just buildings or backs of buildings with dumpsters. You know, it's a walk. It's pedestrians. It's people enjoying the outside. And I guarantee, just seeing that, you're going to see people that have been boating for the last 40 years. They're actually going to park and check it out because of this. I want to thank everybody. I appreciate it.
Alderman Miller?
I'm thrilled to see this last piece, well, not the last piece, but the next piece done. The back side of Riverside Drive, and I was there for a long time in my building, was not beautiful for a very long time. And it's what you see from both bridges. It's what you see coming into our community. And this is going to encourage those property owners to make the back side of the building the front side of the building. Being in real estate, we often talk about what's the front of a riverfront house. Is it the river or is it the street? And I have this argument continuously with people who don't understand lifestyle living. So by creating this beautiful walk, these property owners are going to dress up that side of those buildings and continue to add value to our community. Because that becomes their front, which is amazing. Thank you, John.
Just one quick.
Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I've said this before, cities, towns would love to have water, especially a river going down their backyard, and we're fortunate, pardon me?
No, go ahead.
We're fortunate to have this, and finally, the missing link is about to be closed here, and again, thank you, John, for all you did.
Did you have a question? You want to make a comment? No, that's fine. Sorry, I didn't see your hand back there.
Hi. I was taking notes during other parts, and when the discussion was coming about why you have a tip, I think this is why we did the tip so long ago, the first one. And I feel like what you see already in town speaks to what Alderman Miller was just saying. People have already begun to upgrade their property. The investment is already shown. So I feel like you're on the verge, hopefully, of approving this now for this bid this year and not waiting. Because the time is here, the time is now. And we can already see the benefits that we have from the parts that we have done. And I think it's almost a no-brainer at this point, given what you've already seen. We wouldn't have the Riverwalk shop, and look how many more retail spaces we've gained in the last few years. Look at the restaurants that are being built. And I've always felt, and I don't think I'm alone in this, as goes the downtown, so does the rest of the town. And so I feel like the community is right, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for the good government that's been going on, the decisions you've been making, and the support that you've given, and the support that I hope you give tonight. And thank God for John.
Thank God for John.
Thank you for everything. I'm really jazzed about my little hometown.
Thank you for all you've done as well. All right, any other comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
No.
Alderman Strack?
Yes, and thank you to John as well.
Alderman Cook?
After hearing everything, I'll go with this.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Congratulations, John. Thank you all very much for waiting through that painful meeting, so thank you all. And also thank you, Molly, for the Riverwalk shops and all you've done as well, so thank you. All right, moving on to the next. You all are more than welcome to leave. You don't have to stay for the rest of this. We're going to go into executive session and everything else, so thank you all very much. Next item on the agenda, staff reports. Any new staff reports this evening? Hopefully not.
I think we've talked enough.
Just keep moving. Perfect. I like it. In that case, no mayor's report. City council comments? Alderman Glab?
Yeah, as long as we're talking about the Riverwalk tonight, I want to bring up the fact that it's been 20 years that we've, been building the Riverwalk. And I think we just need to start looking at the Riverwalk beginning a little bit closer, because I can remember last summer walking through the Riverwalk and a lot of loose bricks here and there, and somebody brought up the fact that, well, if somebody calls up, they replace a plank or fix something. We need to be a little bit more observant and walk that Riverwalk at least twice a year and make sure it's we don't want to finish it and find out at the beginning. Now we've got to start fixing things up. In other words, let's make sure we maintain what we built. And I just wanted to bring that up. We've got how many people with Pat Gorniak? 4 besides him?
6.
6 people all total?
Yes.
Or is it
We
with
have Pat,
6?
we have Pat, and an assistant superintendent, Jeff Friedel, and then 6 maintenance workers.
We got quite a few people just working the downtown area, so
That's for parks also. All of our parks and downtown and the Riverwalk. That's everything.
Okay, well, they need to make sure that we really look at that Riverwalk. Even if it's one block somewhere that's loose, we should just make sure that we keep it pristine. We don't want to lose it. We don't want to wind up like we wound up with streets or sidewalks or anything else to where we're behind the 8 ball. That's all I'm asking, so.
Yeah, I'll just, if you don't mind if I just respond to that?
Go ahead.
Just quickly, we do continually invest into that. We did a brick replacement of 15,000, 2 years ago. We have another brick replacement coming up. We repainted the bridge. That was like $40,000 to repaint the bridge. All the railings in front of the townhomes and all the railings in general, all had to be electrostatic painting. So we do our best, not to say that you wouldn't walk down there and find something that could be better. There's some concrete and brickwork that needs to be done, and we'll keep working on those things. There were some joist hangers that failed in front of the Riverwalk Place townhomes at one point that we did have to take some decking up and repair those. There's a redecking that we're going out for right now, $75,000. So just some contractual type elements, we spent over $200,000 on maintenance, and we have another probably $100,000, and that's just contractual, aside from the other things that we invest our time and effort into as well. So we do our best to keep that up, and if you see something, we're down there on a daily basis for sure, but if there is something, please let us know. More eyes are better. In any case, I never turn away from those.
The comment isn't to be critical, it's more to be just as a reminder, and things that I've seen in the past. I just want to make sure, that the big things you see, but, those small things in the corners a lot of times get missed, and then before you know it, you can really have a disaster in different areas. That's all.
Thank you. And I would say even coming out of this meeting tonight, there's a couple comments that I feel like we're going to go back and take a closer look at, especially that gazebo and the status of the gazebo. I know we're going to be repainting that this summer, but obviously there's a bigger problem going on there than repainting it. So, thank you again.
All right, any other Alderman Cook, go ahead.
We had the ice fishermen. I know it's moot now, we don't have any ice, but when you guys plow the parking lots and all that, can you make like a niche where a truck can back up to it, and instead of climbing over 10 feet of snow, be able to pull their shanties off on there at the West Beach and the East? Mm-hmm. And also, the boat launch was never plowed, and that's a good spot for ice fishing. I know. Yeah. I only got out one time, and it was rather difficult. So, and also one other thing, is there a lead pipe replacement for the city for anybody who has lead pipes going into their house? Is there like a grant or something for something like that, or is the homeowner responsible for all of that?
Steve, go ahead.
There are no grants. There are no grants at this time. We're kind of in in-between sort of phase. April 15th, our final count is due of how many lead services we have in town, and we need to turn in our initial plan to replace lead services. We don't actually start replacing them until 2027. So what we've done in the past is if the homeowner had a lead service and they replaced their half, the city would replace our half at our cost, and they would replace their half at their cost. So that's what we've been doing in the past up until this point. After 2027, we will be required to replace it all the way to the meter.
Thank you.
Alderman Glab?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that, and that's the fact that, I've seen requests for $20,000-$30,000 in economic development. This happens to be a business, I think, that Alderman Cook is bringing up, that is a very small business, but does a lot of work for a lot of people in this town, and a very useful business. And I just think to some extent we'd like to see maybe how we can help out that business owner as much as possible.
After the meeting, if you could let me know.
Like I said, if we can give away $20,000 or $30,000 for facade, I mean, we're talking something that we would have to replace anyway, as far as the, our end of it. Why don't we see if we can't help out that business?
Okay.
Not saying give the farm away, but let's just see what we can do.
we've had initial conversations, me and Doug Martin have had about the city replacing our half of
Right.
that service.
Okay.
So you know what building they're talking about?
I do, I believe we're
Got it.
talking about one on Main Street.
Got it, okay.
That is correct.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Any other city council comments? All right. At this time, we're going to go into executive session to discuss the purchase or lease of real estate property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired, 5 ILCS 120-2C5. I am looking for a motion to enter executive session. Alderman Strack?
So moved.
Alderman Miller?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller? Yes. Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Thank you, council. No, you're fine. Yeah, you're good.